Have you ever noticed how much of our daily energy is spent seeking approval? We post a photo and wait for the likes to roll in. We deliver a presentation and hang on every word of feedback. We craft our image, hoping for that external nod that says, "You are enough." It's a universal hunger, this search for validation, and it feels like the modern world is built to feed it. Yet, how often does that fleeting praise actually translate into a deep, unshakable sense of self-assurance? If you're honest, the answer is probably not very often. That external confidence is like a house built on sand. It looks solid until the first storm hits, and then it washes away, leaving you feeling even more exposed than before. This cycle is exhausting, and it points to a fundamental truth we've largely forgotten. Real confidence cannot be given to you. It must be built by you from the inside out. This is precisely where an ancient philosophy, born in the porticos of Athens and Rome, offers a startlingly modern solution. Stoicism doesn't ask you to change your circumstances to feel confident. It teaches you to change your relationship to them. The Stoic sage Epictetus, a man who began his life as a slave, put it with breathtaking clarity when he said, "Happiness and freedom begin with a clear understanding of one principle. Some things are within our control, and some things are not." Think about the immense power in that simple idea. Our power lies not in controlling every outcome, but in mastering our choices, our judgments, and our responses to whatever life throws at us. This is the bedrock of a confidence that no outside event can shatter. It's not about feeling invincible. It's about knowing that you are resilient, that your worth is determined by your character and your actions, not by the fickle opinions of the world. In this video, we are going to explore 23 unexpected practical habits, all aligned with Stoic wisdom, that are designed to do exactly that, to systematically rebuild your confidence from its very foundation. This isn't about positive thinking or reciting affirmations. This is about the daily, disciplined work of fortifying your mind. We will dive into principles of virtue, of understanding what is truly within your control, and of cultivating a resilience that turns obstacles into advantages. This is a practical guide, a manual for the modern seeker of a quieter mind and a more courageous heart. So, if you're ready to stop looking for confidence in the wrong places and start building a version that is truly your own, then you are in the right place. Let's begin this journey. What is the single biggest fear you have about an upcoming challenge in your life? Maybe it's a difficult conversation you need to have with a loved one, a high-stakes presentation at work, or the possibility of a rejection you're steeling yourself against. That knot in your stomach, the racing thoughts, it's a universal experience. Now, what if I told you there is a powerful, ancient technique designed not to make that fear disappear, but to fundamentally change your relationship with it, to drain it of its power to paralyze you? This is the first habit, and it comes to us directly from the Stoics, who called it Premeditatio Malorum, the premeditation of evils or adversities. This practice is often profoundly misunderstood. It is not about pessimistic worrying or convincing yourself that everything will go wrong. That would be a recipe for anxiety. Instead, Premeditatio Malorum is a disciplined exercise in mental preparedness. It is the equivalent of a fire drill for your mind. You don't conduct a fire drill because you believe the building is definitely going to burn down. You do it so that if the alarm ever sounds, your body and mind know what to do. There is no panic, only purposeful action. The Stoic does the same with life's potential setbacks. By deliberately and rationally visualizing the challenges that could arise, you are inoculating yourself against the shock and awe of misfortune. When you have already walked through the scenario in your mind, it loses its element of surprise, and with that, a great deal of its intimidating power. The Roman philosopher Seneca was a master of this. In his letters, he actively encouraged himself and his friends to anticipate the loss of wealth, status, exile, and even death. He wasn't being morbid, he was making a crucial philosophical point. He wrote, "He who has anticipated the coming of troubles takes away their power when they arrive." By mentally rehearsing these so-called evils, he came to a startling realization. They are not truly evils at all. Poverty, for instance, is an external condition. It is difficult, yes, but it does not prevent you from being virtuous, from acting with justice, courage, and self-control. Exile is a change of location, not a destruction of character. The Stoic conviction is that our true good lies in our virtue and our reasoned choice, things which can never be taken from us by an external event. When you premeditate adversity, you are not just preparing for difficulty, you are proving to yourself in advance that your core self cannot be broken by it. Let's make this incredibly practical. Imagine you have a crucial job interview tomorrow. The common approach is to visualize everything going perfectly: the smooth answers, the impressed nods, the immediate job offer. But what happens when the first question is one you didn't expect, or the interviewer seems disinterested? That's when confidence, built on a foundation of pure optimism, can instantly crumble. Now apply Premeditatio Malorum. Before the interview, sit quietly and mentally walk through a more challenging version. Visualize the interviewer asking a technical question you can't fully answer. See yourself pausing, taking a breath, and saying calmly, "That's an excellent question. I don't have the full answer at my fingertips, but my understanding is this, and here is how I would go about finding the complete solution." Imagine the technology failing during your presentation. Mentally rehearse yourself smoothly adapting, perhaps saying, "It seems we're having a technical moment." While we resolve this, let me walk you through the key concepts. You are not willing failure, you are rehearsing resilience. You are programming your mind with a plan B and a plan C, so that no matter what happens, you have a virtuous, capable response ready. So here is your first reflective challenge. Identify one situation in the coming week that is causing you a low hum of anxiety. It doesn't have to be a life-altering event. It could be a tricky email you need to send, a social gathering you're nervous about, or a project deadline. Now, instead of pushing the worry away, set aside just 5 minutes to engage with it deliberately. Close your eyes and walk through the worst-case scenario you fear. But as you do this, focus not on the catastrophic emotions, but on your response. Ask yourself, in this challenging moment, how could I act with courage? How could I demonstrate wisdom? What would it look like to respond with integrity, even here? This simple act of mental rehearsal is the first brick in building a fortress of confidence that is ready for anything, not just hoping for the best. What if you deliberately chose to be a little bit colder, or slightly hungrier, or a touch more tired today? It sounds counterintuitive, almost absurd, in a world that is meticulously engineered for our comfort and convenience. We have apps to deliver hot meals in minutes, climate-controlled environments to keep us perpetually at ease, and endless entertainment to ensure we are never bored. Yet, this constant pursuit of ease has an unintended consequence. It makes us soft. It quietly teaches our nervous system that discomfort is an emergency, something to be avoided at all costs. This leads us directly to our second powerful habit, one the Stoics practiced with intention: the regular embrace of voluntary discomfort. This is not about punishing yourself or embracing a life of austerity. It is a training exercise for the soul, a way to prove to the deepest part of yourself that you are far more resilient and capable than your comfortable routine has led you to believe. The Stoics viewed this as fundamental spiritual calisthenics. The philosopher Musonius Rufus, a teacher of Epictetus, was famously direct on this point. He argued that comfort and luxury make the soul weak and fragile, while hardship and effort make it strong and resilient. He said that to be in training for virtue, one must practice enduring hardship willingly. Think of it like this: you wouldn't expect to run a marathon without ever going for a training run. Your body would break down. In the same way, you cannot expect your mind to remain steadfast and confident in the face of a true life crisis, a job loss, a health scare, a personal failure, if you have never once practiced enduring even minor, self-imposed hardship. Your confidence muscle will have atrophied. Epictetus, who carried these lessons from Musonius into his own teachings, drove the point home. He advised his students to periodically practice poverty, to drink only water, to wear simple clothes, to sleep on a hard bed. His reasoning was profound. By doing so, you are not trying to become poor. You are proving to yourself that even if poverty were to befall you, you could handle it. You are building a self-reliance that is independent of your external circumstances. When your sense of well-being is no longer chained to your level of comfort, you have unlocked a profound and unshakable form of freedom. So, what does this look like in the context of a modern life? It is about finding small, deliberate opportunities to step outside your comfort zone in a controlled way. It could be as simple as taking a cold shower for the final 30 seconds of your morning routine. That initial shock of cold is a mini battle with your own instinct to seek warmth and ease. When you stand there and breathe through it, you are not just getting clean, you are sending a powerful message to your subconscious: I can handle discomfort. I am in command here. Another powerful practice is to occasionally skip a meal, not in a disordered way, but as a conscious exercise. Notice the hunger pangs, observe the thoughts that arise, the impulse to open the fridge, the mild irritability, and simply let them be. You are demonstrating that you are not a slave to your every appetite, or choose to walk or bike for a short errand that you would normally drive. Feel the slight exertion, the change in weather, the minor inconvenience. In each of these tiny acts, you are depositing a small amount of confidence into your psychological bank account. You are collecting evidence that you are tougher than you thought. The true power of this habit is revealed not in the moment of discomfort itself, but in its aftermath. When you voluntarily complete a cold shower, or finish a period of fasting, or arrive at your destination having walked, there is a quiet, undeniable sense of accomplishment. It's a feeling that whispers, I did that, I chose it, and I got through it. This is the genesis of genuine self-trust. It's a tangible proof point that you can endure more than you believed, and that your capacity for resilience is not a fixed trait but a muscle that grows with use. This newfound confidence then begins to seep into other areas of your life. That difficult conversation you've been avoiding feels less daunting because you know you can handle the discomfort of confrontation. A looming deadline feels more manageable because you have practiced pushing through minor physical unease. Your challenge, then, is to actively seek out one small, voluntary discomfort this week. It doesn't need to be dramatic or extreme. It just needs to be a conscious choice that gently pushes against the grain of your usual comforts. Perhaps you decide to leave your phone in another room for an evening, sitting with the quiet and resisting the pull of digital distraction. Maybe you choose to do a tedious household chore you've been putting off, embracing the boredom as part of the training. Or you could simply sit in a slightly cooler room without immediately turning up the heat. The specific act is less important than the intention behind it. After you complete it, take a moment to observe the subtle shift inside you. Notice the quiet pride, the expanded sense of your own capability. This is the Stoic path to building a confidence that is earned, not given. A confidence that is built not on a foundation of constant comfort, but on the proven knowledge that you can handle discomfort when it arrives. When was the last time you honestly reviewed your own performance at the end of the day, not for a boss or a client, but for yourself? We spend so much of our lives looking outward, evaluating everything and everyone around us, yet we so rarely turn that spotlight of attention inward in a structured, purposeful way. This brings us to our third habit, a practice the Stoics considered absolutely essential for moral and intellectual growth: the evening review. This is not about beating yourself up over mistakes or indulging in self-congratulation. It is a disciplined, non-judgmental audit of your own mind and actions, a daily closing ceremony where you become both the student and the teacher, systematically cultivating the self-awareness that is the bedrock of genuine confidence. The Roman philosopher Seneca left us a vivid description of his own nightly ritual. In his work on anger, he describes how he would end each day by entering into a quiet conversation with himself. He would ask, what bad habit have you cured today? What fault have you resisted? In what respect are you better? His focus was never on what had happened to him, but on how he had responded. Did he act with patience when provoked? Did he exercise wisdom in a moment of confusion? Did he demonstrate courage when it was easier to remain silent? This practice transforms the abstract idea of being a good person into a tangible, daily scorecard of your own progress. The goal is not perfection, but progression. By consistently examining where you aligned with your virtues and where you fell short, you begin to close the gap between your ideals and your actions. This process builds a deep, earned form of self-trust. You start to know with certainty what you are made of because you have taken the time to look at the raw materials of your own character each and every day. So, how can you implement this without it feeling like a burdensome chore? The key is to keep it incredibly simple and focused entirely on what was within your control. A powerful two-question format can serve as your guide. First, ask yourself, what did I do well today? But be specific. Don't just say, I was kind. Instead, note, I listened patiently to my colleague's complaint without interrupting, even though I was busy. This pins the virtue of kindness to a concrete action. The second question is, what could I have done better? Crucially, this is not what went wrong. The focus must remain on your own choices. For example, instead of saying, my presentation was poorly received, you would reflect, I could have prepared more thoroughly for the Q and A section, anticipating tougher questions. This subtle shift is everything. It moves you from being a passive victim of circumstances to an active agent in your own improvement. You are not lamenting an outcome, you are refining a process. Imagine a practical scenario. Perhaps during a stressful workday, you snapped at a family member over something minor. The untrained mind might just feel guilty and try to forget it. The Stoic practitioner, during their evening review, would examine this event with calm detachment. They might note, today, I acted impatiently with my partner when they asked about my day. I allowed my external stress to dictate my tone and behavior. Then they would go a step further, not to assign blame, but to plan for the future. Tomorrow, when I feel that same tension rising, I will take one deep breath before I speak, or I will politely ask for a few minutes of quiet to decompress first. This turns a moment of failure into a lesson in emotional regulation. You are not just cataloging errors, you are programming your mind with a better response for next time. This is how confidence is built, not by never failing, but by knowing that every failure becomes data for your growth. The profound benefit of this habit is that it systematically dismantles the power of regret and self-recrimination. When you have a designated time and place to process the day's events, you prevent them from festering in the background of your mind. A harsh word spoken, a task avoided, a moment of cowardice, these things lose their haunting quality when you bring them into the light of reasoned examination. You acknowledge them, learn from them, and then you can let them go, ready to face the next day with a clearer mind and a cleaner slate. Your confidence grows because you are no longer afraid of your own mistakes. You have a system for dealing with them, a method for turning every stumble into a step forward. Your invitation tonight is to experiment with this ancient practice. It requires nothing more than a few minutes of quiet and a pen and paper, or even just your own thoughts. Before you sleep, simply ask yourself those two questions. What is one thing I did today that aligned with my best self? And what is one thing I could have handled with more wisdom or grace? Then, take just one additional step. Write down a single, small insight you gained about your own patterns or reactions. Perhaps you noticed that you are most impatient when you are hungry, or that you feel most confident after you have completed a difficult task first thing in the morning. This one act of nightly reflection is a powerful declaration that you are the architect of your own character, and that every day presents a new opportunity to build something stronger and more resilient. The single most important distinction for your peace of mind is understanding what is up to you and what is not. This is the very heart of Stoic wisdom, the central pillar upon which an unshakable confidence is built. Think about the immense amount of mental and emotional energy you expend every single day. How much of that is spent wrestling with things you ultimately have no power over? Worrying about what someone thinks of you, agonizing over a decision that is in someone else's hands, or feeling angry about a past event that is now frozen in time. This constant struggle against the unchangeable is like trying to push the ocean back with a broom. It's exhausting, futile, and it leaves you feeling powerless. But when you learn to make this fundamental distinction, you reclaim that lost energy. You stop scattering your focus to the wind and start channeling it all into the one arena where you are truly the master, your own inner world. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus, whose teachings were so powerful they have endured for nearly 2,000 years, opened his manual for life, the Enchiridion, with this exact principle. He wrote, "Some things are up to us and some things are not up to us. Our opinions are up to us, our impulses, desires, aversions, in short, whatever is our own doing. Our bodies are not up to us, nor our possessions, our reputations, or our public offices, in short, whatever is not our own doing." Let's break that down into modern terms. What is firmly, unequivocally within your control? Your thoughts, your judgments about events, your values, your intentions, and your voluntary actions. You get to decide how you interpret a situation. You get to choose your effort, your attitude, and your ethical conduct. That is your sovereign territory. Now, what is categorically outside your control? Pretty much everything else. The weather, the traffic, the economy, other people's thoughts, feelings, and actions, your physical appearance, your past mistakes, and the final outcome of your efforts. These are the realm of externals. The moment you try to control what is not yours to control, you hand over the keys to your own confidence and peace of mind. Consider a modern scenario that causes immense daily frustration. Being stuck in a traffic jam. You have a meeting, you're running late, and the sea of brake lights ahead of you is immovable. The event itself, the traffic, is entirely outside your control. You did not cause it, and you cannot magically dissolve it. The untrained mind reacts with fury, pounding the steering wheel, cursing other drivers, and flooding the body with stress hormones. This is a massive investment of energy into a fruitless endeavor. The Stoic, having internalized the dichotomy of control, approaches the same scenario with a completely different mindset. They immediately recognize the traffic as an external, outside their sphere of command. So, where does their control lie in their response? They can choose to use the time productively, perhaps by listening to an audiobook or a podcast, by using the moments for quiet reflection, or by simply practicing patience and observing their own reactions without being ruled by them. They control their breathing, they control their attitude, and they control whether they arrive at their meeting flustered and angry or composed and centered. The situation hasn't changed, but your relationship to it has been utterly transformed. Your confidence grows because you are no longer a puppet jerked around by external circumstances. You are the one holding the strings to your own state of mind. This applies with even greater force to the realm of social and professional interactions. Imagine you receive harsh, critical feedback on a project you worked very hard on. The feedback itself, the words on the page or spoken by your manager, is an external event. It has already happened. It is outside your control. Your initial, raw emotional reaction might also feel automatic, but even that can be met with a moment of pause. What is within your control is everything that happens next. You control whether you assent to the initial impression that this is a catastrophe and a personal attack. You control whether you dissect the feedback for any useful kernels of truth, separating the constructive criticism from the potentially harsh delivery. You control your response whether you react defensively or thank the person for their perspective and decide what to learn from it. Your confidence in this situation doesn't come from receiving only praise. It comes from knowing that no matter what feedback you get, you have a reliable internal process for handling it. Your worth is not determined by the critique. It is demonstrated by your reasoned, virtuous response to it. This practice is the ultimate source of personal agency. When you stop trying to command the ocean and instead focus on perfecting your ability to sail, you become unstoppable. Your energy is no longer drained by futile resistance. Instead, it is concentrated on the one thing that always matters: your character, your virtue, your chosen action in the present moment. This is how you build a confidence that is resilient, because it is based on something solid and dependable, your own capacity for wise choice. To make this personal, take a moment right now. Bring to mind 3 things that are currently causing you stress or annoyance. It could be a disagreement with a friend, anxiety about a future event, or frustration with a personal habit. Now take a mental pen and draw 2 columns. In the first column, list everything about those situations that is truly, definitively outside your control. Your friend's feelings and opinions, the final outcome of the future event, the fact that you have this habit. In the second column, write down what remains, what is exclusively within your control. Your willingness to listen, the apology you can offer, the preparation you can do today, the single small action you can take to change the habit. Seeing this distinction laid out so clearly is often a revelation. It shows you exactly where your power resides and where you have been wasting your precious energy. This act of categorization is not just a mental exercise. It is the first step in reclaiming your confidence and directing your life with purpose and calm authority. Imagine a fortress inside your mind that no outside opinion can breach. Its walls are not made of stone, but of your most deeply held principles. Its gates are guarded not by soldiers, but by your own reasoned judgment. This is the powerful Stoic concept of the inner citadel, a mental stronghold where your true self resides, safe from the slings and arrows of fortune, from the empty praise and the biting criticism of the world. Your confidence in this view is not something that fluctuates with the latest compliment or insult. It becomes a permanent, unshakable state of being, rooted in the knowledge of who you are and what you stand for, regardless of what anyone else says or does. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius, who faced endless political intrigue, battlefield stresses, and personal betrayals, constantly practiced retreating into this inner fortress. In his private writings, which we know as the Meditations, he reminds himself, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." And then he gives us the method. People look for retreats for themselves in the country, by the sea, in the hills, but this is altogether unphilosophical when you can at any hour retreat into yourself. Nowhere can a person find a retreat more full of peace or more free from care than his own soul. He isn't talking about escapism or daydreaming. He is describing a deliberate, instantaneous shift of attention inward to the core of your being, where your virtue and your values lie. When you feel the sting of an insult or the seductive pull of flattery, you don't have to engage with it out there. You can, in a moment, step back inside your citadel and view the event from a place of calm principle. From within those walls, the insult is just sound and the praise is just air. They are external phenomena, and they have no power to define you unless you grant them that power by believing them. So how do you actually build this citadel if you don't feel you have one yet? It begins not with bricks, but with choices. Every time you make a decision aligned with your integrity, even when it's difficult, you lay another stone in the foundation. Every time you choose honesty over convenience, courage over comfort, or compassion over indifference, you are fortifying the walls. This citadel is constructed from your core virtues. For the Stoics, these were typically wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. Wisdom to see the world clearly and make sound judgments, courage to face fears and do what is right. Justice in your dealings with others, and temperance or self-discipline in mastering your own desires and impulses. These aren't abstract ideas, they are the very materials of your inner fortress. When your sense of self-worth is built upon this foundation, it becomes impervious to the weather of external opinion. A storm of criticism may rage outside, but inside you are dry and secure. A warm sun of praise may shine, but it doesn't cause you to grow arrogant or dependent. You appreciate its warmth, but know you do not need it to survive. Let's make this tangible with a practical scenario. Imagine you give a presentation at work. Afterwards, one colleague pulls you aside and lavishes you with praise, telling you it was the most brilliant talk they've ever heard. The untrained ego might swell with pride, attaching its entire sense of accomplishment to this one person's opinion. But from within your inner citadel, you can receive the compliment gracefully without letting it define you. You might think that is their kind perception. I know I prepared thoroughly and spoke with conviction. The value of my work lies in that effort and my honest intent, not in this specific praise. Now flip the scenario. Another colleague criticizes the same presentation, calling it confusing and unoriginal. The untrained ego might crumble, feeling attacked and worthless. But from within the citadel, you can receive the criticism with equanimity. You might reflect, this is their perspective. I will examine it for any useful truth I can learn from. But their opinion does not change the core facts. I prepared diligently and acted according to my best judgment. My worth is not diminished by their view. In both cases, you remain the calm center of the storm. You are not inflated by success nor deflated by failure, because your self-assessment is rooted in your own actions and virtues, not in the ever-changing reactions of other people. This practice is the ultimate act of psychological sovereignty. It is declaring independence from the approval of others. Think of the immense energy you free up when you stop constantly monitoring how you are being perceived and instead focus solely on acting with virtue. The mental chatter quietens, the anxiety about your image dissolves. What remains is a quiet, potent confidence that comes from self-respect. You begin to trust yourself because you know you are guided by a reliable internal compass, not by the shifting winds of popular opinion. This doesn't make you cold or unfeeling. In fact, it allows you to engage with others more authentically because you are no longer interacting with them from a place of neediness or fear. You can listen to feedback without defensiveness and accept compliments without addiction because your foundation is secure. To start constructing your own inner citadel, your task is to define its blueprint. What are the 1 or 2 core virtues you want this fortress to be built upon? Don't just recite the standard list, make it personal. What principle, if you held to it unwaveringly, would make you feel most proud of the person you are? For one person, it might be unwavering honesty. For another, it could be radical kindness. For a third, it might be relentless perseverance. Take a moment to truly consider this. Is your citadel founded on courage so that you can face any truth without flinching? Is it built on justice so that you treat every person with fairness and respect? Identify these cornerstone virtues clearly and write them down. This act of definition is the most crucial step. From this day forward, let these principles be the guardians of your mind. Let them be the standard against which you measure your actions, and the sanctuary you return to when the outside world becomes too loud. This is how you build a confidence that is truly your own, a confidence that no one can give you and no one can take away. Take a mental journey out of your immediate concerns and look down on the world from a great height. See yourself first in your room, then your building, then your city, shrinking to a tiny speck as you rise higher. Watch the cars become ants, the buildings become toys, and the vast, intricate web of human activity unfold beneath you. Now pull back further. See the curve of the earth, the continents and oceans, the entire planet hanging in the immense black silence of space. From this vantage point, your personal worries, that tense email, that looming deadline, that awkward social interaction, what are they? They are not insignificant, but they are placed in their proper, proportionate scale. This is the Stoic exercise known as the view from above, and it is a powerful antidote to the claustrophobic feeling that our problems are the center of the universe. Marcus Aurelius, the emperor of the known world, constantly used this technique to ground himself amidst the immense pressures of ruling a vast empire, leading armies, and dealing with court intrigue. In his meditations, he repeatedly instructs himself to look at the events of human life for countless years past, and to see how many great empires and famous figures have risen, only to be long ago buried in oblivion. He would remind himself that the entire earth is but a point in the cosmos, and his own life on it a mere fleeting moment. He wasn't doing this to become cynical or to belittle his own responsibilities. On the contrary, he was using this cosmic perspective to perform his duties with greater clarity and less ego. By seeing his own life as a tiny part of a vast, eternal whole, he could shed the weight of personal drama and perform his role with a calm, focused mind, free from the exhausting distortions of pride, fear, and self-importance. This practice works because it directly counteracts 2 primary sources of our anxiety: a sense of isolation and a sense of permanence. When you are locked in a conflict with a coworker, it can feel like the entire world has shrunk to that single, tense relationship. The view from above instantly recontextualizes this. From that cosmic vantage point, you see billions of other people, each with their own complex lives, fears, and dreams. You and your colleague are just 2 among countless others, both part of the same shared human experience, both subject to the same forces of nature and time. This doesn't magically solve the conflict, but it drains it of its world-ending intensity. It becomes a manageable human interaction, not a cosmic battle. Furthermore, this exercise shatters the illusion of permanence. The project you are stressed about, the mistake you are agonizing over. In the grand tapestry of time, they are brief flashes. This isn't to say they don't matter, but it liberates you from the belief that any single event will define your entire existence. It introduces a healthy humility, reminding you that you are part of a story much larger than yourself. Let's bring this down from the cosmos to a very practical Monday morning scenario. You are facing a mountain of work with multiple projects due, your inbox is overflowing, and you feel a rising tide of panic. The untrained mind goes into a frantic, scattered mode, trying to tackle everything at once and feeling overwhelmed by the sheer scale of the task. Now, apply the view from above. Close your eyes for just 30 seconds, mentally pull back, see your office building from the outside, a single structure among thousands in your city. See all the other people in their own offices and homes, each with their own mountains to climb. See the city itself as a tiny mark on the spinning earth. From this perspective, is your to-do list truly the immense, insurmountable mountain it felt like? Or is it a finite collection of tasks to be handled one at a time by a capable human being? This shift doesn't make the work disappear, but it removes the suffocating emotional weight. The panic subsides, replaced by a calmer, more methodical approach. You can now see the individual trees instead of being lost in a terrifying forest. The true power of this habit is that it is a tool you can access anytime, anywhere. You don't need special equipment or a quiet room. The next time you feel your chest tighten with stress, be it in a traffic jam, before a difficult conversation, or when receiving bad news, you can perform this mental shift in an instant. It is a cognitive lever that allows you to lift the crushing weight of a problem and see its true mass. It transforms a crisis back into a situation, a catastrophe back into a challenge. Your confidence grows not because your problems get smaller, but because your perspective gets bigger. You realize that your capacity to handle life is far greater than any single event life can throw at you when viewed from the right angle. So the next time you feel that familiar grip of stress, give yourself this gift of space. Take that mental journey to the stars and look back. Notice what happens to your breathing, to the tension in your shoulders, to the frantic pace of your thoughts. You may just find that the problem itself hasn't changed, but your ability to face it with calm assurance has expanded dramatically. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. This powerful statement from the Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius is not merely a poetic phrase. It is a fundamental operating principle for a resilient mind. It captures the essence of our seventh habit, which is the disciplined practice of finding the opportunity hidden within every single obstacle. This is a radical shift from how we are typically conditioned to view setbacks. Our instinct is to see a blocked path as a failure, a reason to stop or turn back. The Stoic, however, is trained to see that same blocked path as the path itself. The obstacle is not a detour from your journey. It has become the very terrain you must now master. This isn't about slapping a happy face on a difficult situation or engaging in naive positive thinking. That kind of forced optimism is often fragile and can easily shatter under real pressure. What we are talking about is something far more robust and pragmatic, a cognitive reframing that treats every challenge as a training ground for your character, a puzzle designed to develop your resourcefulness, and a forge that strengthens your resilience. Marcus Aurelius, the man who penned those famous words, had every reason to be crushed by his obstacles. He spent nearly his entire reign leading military campaigns on the distant frontiers of the empire, far from the comforts of Rome, while also dealing with a devastating plague and constant political threats. In his private journal, he wasn't complaining about these hardships. Instead, he was systematically training himself to see them as raw material for virtue. He wrote, "The mind adapts and converts to its own purposes the obstacle to our acting. The impediment to action advances action. The obstacle becomes the way." He is making a profound psychological point here. The obstacle itself is neutral. It is an event, a circumstance, but your mind has the sovereign power to adapt and convert it. A cancelled flight is an impediment to travel, but your mind can convert it into an opportunity for an unexpected quiet evening of reading or a chance to explore a new city. A critical colleague is an impediment to your peace, but your mind can convert them into a trainer for your patience and a test of your ability to receive feedback with grace. The event doesn't change, but your interpretation of it and your response to it transform it from a roadblock into a runway. Let's make this tangible with a few practical, modern applications. Imagine you've been working for weeks on a proposal at work, and at the last minute your manager cancels the project. The immediate, gut-level reaction might be one of frustration, anger, and a sense of wasted effort. This is a natural human response, but the Stoic practitioner, after acknowledging that initial feeling, would then engage in this deliberate reframing. They would ask, what opportunity has this obstacle just created? Perhaps it frees up a significant amount of time that can now be directed to another, more valuable project that was languishing. Maybe the research and work you did can be repurposed into a compelling article, a presentation for a different audience, or simply stored as valuable knowledge for the future. The cancelled project could be the very thing that forces you to develop a new skill, like learning how to pivot quickly or how to communicate effectively in the face of disappointment. The obstacle, the cancellation, has now become the way forward to new skills, new opportunities, and a demonstration of professional resilience. This principle applies with equal force in our personal lives. Consider a common social obstacle. A planned weekend trip with friends falls through at the last minute. The easy response is to feel disappointed and spend the weekend moping. But the practiced Stoic would see this as a gift of unexpected, unstructured time. This obstacle becomes the way to finally tackle that creative project you never have time for, to have a deep, restorative rest, to connect with a family member you've been neglecting, or simply to enjoy the quiet solitude of your own home. The key is to move from a passive state of "this is happening to me" to an active state of "what can I make of this?" You are no longer a leaf blown by the wind of circumstance. You become the gardener who uses whatever the weather provides, sun, rain, or wind, to nurture growth. Your challenge now is to take this from an abstract idea to a lived reality. Bring to mind one current obstacle in your life. It doesn't have to be a monumental crisis. It could be a minor frustration, like a broken appliance, a difficult person you have to interact with, or a personal goal you're struggling to achieve. Now engage in a brief brainstorming session. Ask yourself, if I were to view this obstacle as my teacher, what is it trying to teach me? If I were to see it as raw material, what could I build with it? If this obstacle is the way, where is it leading me? For instance, if your obstacle is a persistent lack of motivation for exercise, perhaps the opportunity is to explore a new form of movement you genuinely enjoy, like dancing or hiking, thereby learning more about what truly energizes you. If your obstacle is a tight budget, perhaps the opportunity is to develop greater creativity in your cooking, discover free local activities, and build a more profound sense of appreciation for the things you do have. The act of identifying just one potential upside fundamentally rewires your relationship to the problem. It stops being a pure negative and starts becoming a complex situation containing the seeds of your own growth. This is how you build a confidence that is not dependent on everything going smoothly, but one that is actually energized by the inevitable bumps in the road, because you know that each one contains a hidden gift waiting to be unwrapped. How much of what you said today was truly necessary? If you were to sift through the thousands of words you spoke, how many of them served a clear purpose, to inform, to clarify, to connect, to resolve? And how many were simply noise, filler words, unfiltered reactions, idle gossip, or long-winded complaints that dissipated into the air without making any real impact? This brings us to our eighth habit, one that the Stoics considered a direct reflection of a well-ordered mind: the practice of speaking with purpose and brevity. This isn't about becoming a person of few words for its own sake. It is about cultivating a profound discipline over your speech, recognizing that every word you utter is a small but significant action. A cluttered, unfiltered stream of speech is often the external symptom of a cluttered, reactive internal state. It reveals a mind that is swept along by every passing thought and emotion. Conversely, clear, concise, and deliberate communication is the hallmark of self-possession. It demonstrates that you are in command of your thoughts before they become words, and that you respect both your own time and the attention of the person you are speaking to. This habit builds confidence because it forces you to think before you act, and in doing so, you present a version of yourself that is composed, capable, and worthy of being heard. The founders of Stoicism placed immense importance on this very idea. Zeno of Citium, who first taught Stoicism in the Painted Porch, or Stoa, in Athens, was renowned for his incredibly concise and powerful way of speaking. He understood that wisdom is not demonstrated by the quantity of words, but by their quality and precision. More than 2 centuries later, the Roman Stoic Seneca dedicated entire letters to the dangers of an unguarded tongue. He warned specifically against gossip and chatter, not merely as a social faux pas, but as a deep moral failing. He saw gossip as a form of idleness that pulls us away from our own work and corrupts our character. In one of his letters, he advises his friend Lucilius, avoid conversation with all the many persons whose talk is about their neighbors, for when a man spends his time on his neighbor's faults, he is likely to acquire the habit of fault-finding. This Stoic focus on disciplined speech is intrinsically linked to the virtue of temperance or self-control. Temperance is about mastering our desires and impulses, and our speech is one of the most immediate and frequent impulses we experience. To pause, to filter, to choose only the necessary words, this is a daily, moment-to-moment exercise in self-mastery. Every time you succeed, you are not just communicating more effectively, you are fortifying your will and reinforcing the governance of your rational mind over your reactive emotions. Let's make this distinction vivid with a practical scenario from a professional environment. Imagine you've encountered a problem with a project. One approach is to voice a rambling complaint to your colleague. It might sound like this: "I just can't believe this is happening again. The client is being so unreasonable and the deadline is totally impossible. I was up until midnight last night trying to fix the data from the last report, and now this. It's just one thing after another, and honestly, I don't even know why we bother." This kind of speech, while it might feel cathartic in the moment, has several negative consequences. It broadcasts a lack of control and a victim mentality. It drains energy from both you and your listener without offering a path forward. It clutters the air with emotion rather than illuminating the situation with clarity. Now contrast that with a statement of purpose and brevity. After pausing to collect your thoughts, you might say, "We've hit a snag. The client has requested a significant change to the design, which will impact our Friday deadline. I've identified the key steps to address this, but I need your input on the timeline." Notice the profound difference. This second statement is calm, factual, and focused on solutions. It respects your colleague's time and intelligence. It does not ignore the difficulty of the situation, but it frames it as a problem to be solved, not a catastrophe to be lamented. The person who speaks this way immediately projects confidence and competence. They are seen as a problem solver, not a problem reporter. Internally, this act of framing the issue so clearly also helps you. By articulating the problem concisely, you are forced to distill it to its essence, which is the first step toward actually solving it. This practice extends far beyond the workplace into every facet of our communication. Think about how we often use speech as a social crutch, filling uncomfortable silences with meaningless chatter, or how we might exaggerate a story to make it more entertaining, sacrificing truth for effect. The Stoic ideal challenges us to see these habits as small but meaningful leaks of our integrity and focus. When you commit to speaking with purpose, you begin to listen more deeply because you are no longer planning your next statement while the other person is talking. You become more present in your conversations, and as a result, your relationships can become more authentic. People start to trust your words because they know you don't waste them. They learn that when you speak, you have something valuable to say. This, in turn, builds a quiet, profound confidence. You no longer feel the need to fill the silence to prove your worth or to dominate a conversation to feel heard. Your presence alone, grounded in a calm self-assurance, commands respect. To begin integrating this powerful habit into your own life, start with a simple but transformative technique. In your very next conversation, whether it's with a coworker, a family member, or a cashier at a store, make a conscious decision to pause for a full 3 seconds before you respond. This 3-second window is a tiny sanctuary of choice. In that brief space, you are no longer on autopilot. You can take a breath. You can ask yourself a quick internal filter question. Is what I am about to say true? Is it necessary? Is it kind? You don't need to apply all 3 filters perfectly every time, but the act of pausing and asking the question will dramatically alter your output. You will filter out the reactive sigh, the unhelpful criticism, the piece of gossip you were about to share. What will emerge instead will be a more considered, more purposeful, and more powerful contribution. This small pause is the training ground for a more disciplined mind. It is the practical mechanism that turns the abstract ideal of Stoic temperance into a lived reality, one conversation at a time, building a confidence that is expressed not by how much you say, but by the weight and clarity of the words you choose. What if every person you meet today is your teacher? This simple but profound shift in perspective is the heart of our 9th habit, and it completely transforms the landscape of your daily interactions. Instead of seeing people as either helpers or hindrances on your path, you begin to see every single one of them as a potential lesson in human nature and a trainer for your own character. The person who is rude to you in line at the coffee shop is no longer just an obstacle to your morning peace. They become a live fire exercise in patience. The colleague who stubbornly opposes your ideas is not merely a frustration. They are a drill sergeant for your empathy and your ability to communicate with clarity and respect under pressure. Even the people you admire most are not just icons to be put on a pedestal. They are living demonstrations of the virtues you wish to cultivate, showing you in real time what wisdom, courage, or kindness actually looks like in action. The Stoic Emperor Marcus Aurelius, a man who had to deal with scheming politicians, demanding generals, and countless other difficult personalities, constantly practiced this reframing. In his meditations, he doesn't curse the people who annoy him. Instead, he thanks the gods for them. He writes, "When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly. They are like this because they cannot tell good from evil." Notice that he isn't saying this to justify feeling superior. He is saying it to prepare his own mind. He is reminding himself that people act poorly out of ignorance, not malice. Their wrongdoings are a result of their own mistaken judgments about what is truly good. Therefore, to be angry with them is as pointless as being angry with a child who doesn't understand calculus. Your job is not to correct their ignorance in the moment, but to manage your own reaction to it. He continues, instructing himself to see these difficult individuals as his trainers. I cannot be angry with my relative or hate him. We were born to work together like feet, hands, and eyes. To feel anger at someone is to forget that all people are your relatives. By viewing the person as a necessary part of his own moral training, Marcus removes the sting of their actions and turns a potentially infuriating encounter into a workout for his soul. Let's bring this down from the imperial court to a very common modern scenario. Imagine you work in a service role and you have to deal with a customer who is being openly rude and unreasonable, raising their voice over a minor issue. The untrained, automatic reaction is to meet that energy with defensiveness, or to internalize the insult and feel your own confidence crumble. You might spend the rest of the day replaying the encounter, feeling disrespected and angry. Now apply the Stoic lens. This person is your teacher today. Their lesson is on maintaining your composure and your dignity in the face of hostility. Your goal in this interaction is not to win an argument or to make them see reason. That is outside your control. Your goal, which is entirely within your control, is to act with grace under pressure. You can take a quiet breath, listen without interrupting, and respond with a calm, firm tone. I understand you're upset, and I want to help resolve this. Let's see what we can do. You are not being a doormat, you are being a master of your own internal state. You are demonstrating the virtue of temperance by not mirroring their anger. In that moment, you are not a victim of their behavior, you are a student passing a difficult test. When you walk away from that interaction, you won't feel depleted and angry. You will feel a quiet, powerful sense of strength, because you know you handled yourself in a way that aligns with your principles. The difficult person, perhaps without ever knowing it, gave you the gift of proving your own character to yourself. This habit extends far beyond just managing conflict. It also applies to the people you admire and enjoy. The friend who listens with incredible patience is teaching you the art of presence. The mentor who gives you clear, direct feedback is modeling the virtue of honest counsel. When you start to see these positive interactions as lessons too, you become a more active and grateful participant in them. You are not just passively receiving their goodness, you are consciously observing it, learning from it, and filing it away as a quality you wish to strengthen in yourself. This turns every social encounter into a rich curriculum for personal development. The world becomes your classroom, and every person who crosses your path, whether they bring you joy or frustration, is there to help you practice, learn, and grow. To integrate this transformative habit, take a moment now to bring to mind one specific person in your life you currently find challenging. It could be a relative, a coworker, a neighbor, or even a public figure who consistently irritates you. Now, instead of focusing on everything they do wrong, ask yourself this single, powerful question. What is this person teaching me about myself? Perhaps their stubbornness is teaching you the limits of your own patience and showing you exactly where you need to practice more tolerance. Maybe their negativity is a mirror, reflecting back your own hidden fears or cynicism that you need to address. Or perhaps their behavior is a clear lesson in what you do not want to become, thereby clarifying your own values. Identify just one specific quality or skill this difficult relationship is forcing you to develop. Is it the skill of setting boundaries, the quality of forgiveness? The ability to detach from other people's opinions. By naming the lesson, you reclaim your power. You are no longer just suffering through an annoying interaction. You are actively enrolled in a class, and the curriculum is your own character. This subtle shift turns resentment into curiosity and conflict into education, building a confidence that comes from knowing you can learn and grow from absolutely anyone you meet. You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think. This arresting statement from the Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius is not meant to be a dark or frightening thought. Instead, it is an invitation to the most liberating clarity you will ever experience. This is the 10th habit, known by its Latin name, Memento Mori, remember you must die. Far from being a morbid fixation, this Stoic practice is a powerful psychological tool designed to sharpen your focus, infuse your actions with purpose, and strip away the countless distractions that keep you from living a truly confident and virtuous life. When you hold the reality of your own finite time as a gentle but constant companion, it acts as a filter for your attention. It forces you to ask in every moment, is this important? Is this worthy of my limited and precious time? The petty grievances, the fear of what others think, the endless procrastination on your most meaningful goals, all of it begins to look like what it is, background noise. Remembering that you will die is the ultimate prioritization system for your soul. The Stoics were not the only philosophers to contemplate mortality, but they were unique in their practical, almost clinical application of it. Seneca, in his letters, wrote extensively about how keeping death close at hand enriches life. He argued that we are not given a short life, but we make it short by wasting it. He advised, let us prepare our minds as if we'd come to the very end of life. Let us postpone nothing. Let us balance life's books each day. The one who puts the finishing touches on their life each day is never short of time. This is the core of the practice. It is not about living in a state of fear, but about living with a sense of completion. When you live as if today could be your last, not in a frantic, bucket list kind of way, but in a deeply intentional way, you are forced to reconcile your actions with your deepest values. You stop waiting for the perfect moment to begin that project, to mend that relationship, or to speak your truth. The perfect moment is now, because now is all you are ever guaranteed. This awareness builds a profound and unshakable confidence because it roots you in absolute honesty about your existence. You stop playing small games because you no longer have time for them. Consider how this practice can transform one of the most common sources of anxiety, a difficult conversation you've been avoiding. Perhaps there's a lingering conflict with a family member, or you need to ask for a raise, or you have to set a firm boundary with a friend. The untrained mind procrastinates, inventing endless reasons to delay. The timing isn't right. I might upset them. Maybe it will just resolve itself. But when you bring the lens of Memento Mori to this situation, the calculus changes entirely. You are forced to confront a stark question. If I were to die unexpectedly tomorrow, would I be content with this unresolved tension hanging in the air? Would I be proud of my silence, or would I regret my cowardice? This reflection does not make you reckless. It makes you courageous. It compels you to approach the conversation not with aggression, but with a newfound honesty and directness, because you understand that the temporary discomfort of the conversation is infinitely preferable to the permanent regret of never having had it. Your confidence in this interaction comes not from a guarantee of a positive outcome, but from the knowledge that you are acting in alignment with your integrity, regardless of the result. You are choosing the sharp sting of truth over the dull, chronic ache of avoidance. This habit also radically alters your relationship with trivial concerns and minor irritations. That person who cut you off in traffic, the long line at the grocery store, the negative comment on a social media post, when viewed against the backdrop of your mortality, these events are revealed in their true proportion. They are insignificant blips. The energy you might have spent on seething anger or wounded pride is instantly freed up for things that actually matter. A meaningful connection with a loved one, progress on a creative pursuit, or a moment of quiet appreciation for the simple fact that you are alive to experience any of it. This is not a form of spiritual bypassing where you pretend things don't bother you. It is a conscious reordering of your priorities. By regularly remembering that your time is limited, you train your mind to differentiate between what is truly essential and what is merely incidental. This creates a deep internal calm, a confidence that comes from knowing you are focused on the main themes of your life, not getting lost in the footnotes. To make this practice your own, let's engage in a powerful thought experiment. Set aside all other distractions for a moment and ask yourself this single, piercing question. If a doctor informed you with absolute certainty that you had just 1 month left to live, what is the one thing you would stop doing immediately, and what is the one thing you would start? Do not answer quickly. Sit with the gravity of the scenario. The thing you would stop is almost certainly a drain on your spirit. Perhaps the endless consumption of news and social media, the people-pleasing that compromises your values, or the complaining about circumstances you have the power to change. The thing you would start is a reflection of your deepest unmet longing. Maybe it's writing letters to tell people you love them, finally creating that piece of art that's been in your heart, or simply spending quiet, uninterrupted time in nature. The clarity that emerges from this exercise is a direct message from your most authentic self. It is a blueprint for how you should be living right now. Memento Mori is not about waiting for a terminal diagnosis to start living fully. It is about using the awareness of your mortality as the very fuel that ignites a life of purpose, virtue, and unshakable confidence today. Amor Fati, the Stoic demand to not just bear but love your fate. This powerful Latin phrase, which translates to a love of one's fate, might sound like a radical, almost impossible ideal. How can we possibly love the painful, disappointing, and unfair events that life throws at us? The Stoic answer is not that we should enjoy suffering or pretend that hardship feels good. Instead, it is a profound shift in perspective, a decision to embrace everything that occurs as an essential, inseparable thread in the tapestry of our unique life. It is the ultimate form of acceptance, moving beyond mere tolerance or grudging endurance into a state of active, welcoming engagement with reality itself. To practice Amor Fati is to see every single event, the promotion and the layoff, the joyful reunion and the painful goodbye, the smooth journey and the unexpected detour, as the raw material you have been given to craft a life of virtue, resilience, and meaning. Your fate is not something that happens to you. It is the very ground upon which you build your character. While the specific phrase Amor Fati is often attributed to the philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche, the sentiment is woven directly into the fabric of Stoic thought. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus, born into slavery and intimately familiar with hardship, laid the groundwork for this idea when he taught his students to wish for things to happen exactly as they do happen. He said, "Do not seek for things to happen as you wish, but wish for things to happen as they do, and you will go on well." This is not passive resignation. It is an active, dynamic alignment of your will with the unfolding of the cosmos. For Epictetus, who often spoke of Zeus or nature, events do not occur randomly. They are part of a coherent, rational whole. Our suffering arises when our individual, narrow will clashes with this greater will. Amor Fati is the practice of dissolving that clash. It is choosing to see the bad event not as a mistake in the universe's plan, but as a necessary part of it, a part that, if met with courage and wisdom, can forge you into a stronger, more complete human being. Let's make this concrete with a scenario that causes immense anxiety for so many, an unexpected job loss. The initial, natural reaction is often one of shock, fear, and a deep sense of personal failure. The mind spirals into stories of inadequacy, financial doom, and a shattered professional identity. This is the point where most people resist their fate. They fight against it, drowning in resentment toward the company, the economy, or themselves. They see the event as a full stop, an ending that defines them. The practitioner of Amor Fati, after allowing themselves to feel the initial human emotions, begins the work of reframing. They consciously choose to look for the redirection hidden within the rejection. Perhaps this job was comfortable but was no longer challenging your growth. Maybe the loss forces you to finally confront a latent entrepreneurial spirit you were too afraid to explore. It could be that this opening creates the space for a completely different career path that aligns more deeply with your values, one you would never have had the courage to leave your secure job to pursue. The layoff is not a verdict on your worth. It is a forceful nudge from the universe, compelling you onto a path you were meant to walk but were too comfortable to choose for yourself. You begin to love this fate not because it felt good, but because it was necessary for your evolution. This practice extends far beyond major life crises into the daily irritations and minor setbacks that chip away at our peace. Consider a simpler example. You have meticulously planned a picnic for weeks, and on the morning of the event, the skies open up with a torrential downpour. The common response is frustration and disappointment. You might spend the day indoors complaining about the weather and mourning your lost plans. Amor Fati invites a different adventure. You look at the rain and decide to love it. This change in weather has now gifted you a cozy, unexpected day indoors. It becomes an opportunity to light candles, curl up with a book you've been meaning to read, or have a long, heartfelt conversation with your family without the distraction of a perfect sunny day. The obstacle of the rain has become the way to a different but equally valuable form of connection and rest. By loving the rainy day, you have not been defeated by it. You have collaborated with it to create a new and perhaps even more memorable experience. Your confidence grows from this flexibility, from the proven knowledge that no matter what the world delivers, you have the creative capacity to find a way to love it and make it your own. The true power of Amor Fati is that it transforms you from a passive character in your own story into its active, grateful author. When you stop fighting reality, you unlock a tremendous reservoir of energy that was previously wasted on resistance. That same energy can now be channeled into constructive action and virtuous response. This is not about being a Pollyanna, it is about being a pragmatist of the spirit. You recognize that fighting what has already happened is the most futile battle imaginable. The event is done. The only thing left to control is your relationship to it. By choosing to love it, you integrate it fully into your identity. It becomes a part of your strength, your wisdom, your unique story. A life lived without Amor Fati is a life of constant, quiet war with reality. A life lived with it is a life of profound peace and unshakable confidence, because you know that there is literally nothing life can do to you that you cannot eventually find a way to embrace, learn from, and use as fuel for your growth. To begin weaving this profound habit into the fabric of your mind, let's engage in a simple but powerful exercise in reframing. Cast your thoughts back to a past event that you have always labeled as bad, unfortunate, or a failure. It could be a relationship that ended, a business venture that didn't succeed, or a missed opportunity that you've long regretted. Now, with the gentle curiosity of a detective, search for just one positive outcome, one valuable lesson, or one hidden strength that emerged specifically because of that event. Did the heartbreak teach you something crucial about your own needs and boundaries that made your future relationships healthier? Did the business failure force you to develop a skill or resilience that later became a cornerstone of your success? Did the missed opportunity unexpectedly free you up for a different path that led to even greater fulfillment? The goal is not to erase the pain or pretend it didn't hurt, but to balance the ledger of your memory. By consciously identifying that single silver lining, you are performing a small act of Amor Fati. You are telling your past, and more importantly, yourself, that even in the midst of difficulty, you are capable of finding meaning. This single act plants the seed for a future where you can meet any circumstance, no matter how challenging, with the unwavering confidence of one who knows that every piece of your story, light and shadow alike, is essential to the person you are becoming. Between an event and your reaction, there is a space. In that space lies your freedom. This is the profound territory we enter with our 12th habit, the Stoic Discipline of Assent. It is the practice of inserting a moment of conscious awareness between the raw, initial impression that the world throws at you and your final judgment about what that impression means. Most of our lives are lived on autopilot, where an external trigger immediately produces an internal storm, a surge of anger at a perceived insult, a wave of anxiety about a potential threat, a flush of pride from a compliment. We instinctively assent to these first impressions, accepting them as absolute truth without a second thought. The Stoics identified this automatic assent as the primary source of our emotional turmoil. The discipline of assent is the powerful, deliberate act of pausing in that critical space to interrogate that first impression, to ask, is this an accurate representation of reality, or is it a distorted story my mind is telling me? This is not about suppressing emotion. It is about introducing reason as the gatekeeper of your mind, thereby gaining true mastery over your inner world. Outward reactions. This concept is one of the 3 core disciplines taught by Epictetus, a former slave who became one of history's most influential philosophers. He divided the path to wisdom into 3 areas: the discipline of desire, which concerns what we should and should not want; the discipline of action, which guides how we behave in our relationships with others; and the foundational discipline of assent, which governs how we use our faculty of judgment to accept or reject the impressions that present themselves to our mind. For Epictetus, this was the starting point for everything. He taught that we are not disturbed by things themselves, but by the views we take of them. An impression is just a piece of data, a neutral suggestion from the senses. It says that person insulted you, or you might fail this project. The untrained mind immediately grabs onto that impression, agrees with it completely, and then the emotional and physiological cascade begins. The disciplined mind, however, catches that impression at the door and holds it up to the light of reason before deciding whether to let it in. This tiny gap, this moment of hesitation, is where your power resides. It is the difference between being a puppet whose strings are pulled by every passing event and being the puppeteer who decides which strings to pull. Let's bring this to life with a scenario that almost everyone can relate to: receiving critical feedback, especially when it feels unfair or poorly delivered. Imagine you've just presented a project you poured your heart into. Afterwards, your manager pulls you aside and says the core idea was weak and your delivery was confusing. The initial impression that floods your system is likely one of sharp defensiveness and hurt. Your heart rate quickens, your face flushes, and a torrent of internal arguments prepares to launch. He didn't even understand it. This is so unfair after all my hard work. He's just trying to undermine me. If you assent automatically to this initial impression, you are now in a state of high emotion. Your subsequent reaction is almost guaranteed to be defensive, perhaps snappish or withdrawn. You might leave the conversation feeling resentful and demoralized, and the potential value in the feedback is completely lost in the emotional noise. Now let's replay that same scenario with the discipline of assent applied. The manager delivers the same criticism. You feel the same initial surge of defensiveness and hurt. This is the involuntary impression. But instead of letting it carry you away, you activate your pause button. In that crucial space, you take a silent breath and begin to interrogate the impression. You ask yourself questions rooted in reason. Is there any part of this feedback that is objectively true, separate from my feelings? Did I rush through the explanation of the core concept? Could the structure have been clearer? By doing this, you are not agreeing with the criticism. You are simply investigating it. You are separating the factual content of the feedback from the emotional charge of its delivery and your own ego's attachment to the work. This process of examination immediately creates distance. The impression loses its tyrannical power over you. You might then respond with something measured and powerful like, "Thank you for the feedback. I want to make sure I understand so I can improve. Could you specify which part of the core idea seemed weak to you and which section of the delivery felt confusing?" This response is calm, professional, and seeks clarification. It transforms you from a reactive victim into a proactive learner. You have not been deflated. You have chosen to engage with the world from a place of reason, and that is an incredible demonstration of self-possession and confidence. This discipline is equally vital for managing anxiety about future events. The impression might be, this upcoming presentation is going to be a disaster. The automatic assent leads to a spiral of catastrophic thinking, sleepless nights, and physical tension. The disciplined approach is to pause and interrogate that impression. What is the actual evidence that it will be a disaster? I have prepared. I have successfully given presentations before. The word disaster is a label, not a fact. The reality is that I will speak for 30 minutes and answer questions. That is all. By refusing to assent to the exaggerated, emotional label, you drain the future event of its terrifying power and reduce it to a manageable set of tasks. Your confidence grows from the proven ability to manage your own mind, to be the calm CEO of your internal company, rather than a panicked employee reacting to every alarm bell. To begin weaving this transformative habit into the fabric of your daily life, your challenge is to become a detective of your own initial impressions. The next time you feel that unmistakable surge of a strong, reactive emotion, whether it's anger in a traffic jam, jealousy in a social situation, or anxiety before a meeting, make a conscious decision to hit the pause button. It doesn't have to be a long pause. Even 3 seconds of conscious breathing can create the space you need. In that space, silently ask yourself this simple but profound question. Is my initial interpretation of this event the only possible interpretation, or is there another, more reasonable way to see it? When someone cuts you off, instead of assenting to "that jerk is trying to ruin my day," perhaps you can consider that driver might be having a genuine emergency, or they simply made a mistake just like I sometimes do. This isn't about making excuses for others. It's about freeing yourself from the corrosive effects of automatic anger. By practicing this momentary pause, you are not just avoiding a bad reaction. You are actively building a mind that is resilient, reasoned, and truly free. You are building the confidence that comes from knowing that no matter what happens outside, you have a reliable and virtuous process for managing what happens inside. Try going a full day without complaining, criticizing, or boasting. For just 24 hours, make a conscious decision to eliminate these 3 forms of speech from your vocabulary and observe what happens. You will likely find it is one of the most difficult mental workouts you have ever attempted, because complaining, criticizing, and boasting are the default settings for so much of our daily communication. We use them to bond with others, to vent our frustrations, to assert our status, and to fill uncomfortable silences. But what if this constant verbal output is actually draining your confidence rather than building it? This brings us to our 13th habit, the powerful Stoic practice of poverty of speech. This is not about becoming silent or withdrawn. It is about cultivating a profound richness of inner stability by intentionally limiting your speech to what is true, necessary, and kind. When you stop using words as a tool to seek external validation or to vent your internal discomfort, you are forced to find that validation and resolve that discomfort within yourself. This builds a self-contained confidence that is independent of anyone else's reaction. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus, with his characteristic bluntness, issued stark warnings about the dangers of an unguarded tongue. He understood that our speech is not just a means of communication, but a direct window into the state of our soul. A mind that is turbulent and disordered will produce speech that is equally chaotic, filled with complaints about things outside its control, criticisms of others' characters, and boasts about personal achievements meant to inflate a fragile ego. Epictetus advised his students to be fiercely protective of their silence. He suggested that they should often be silent or say only what is necessary and use few words. In one powerful passage, he highlights the sheer risk of unconsidered speech, pointing out how easily we can slip into slander, gossip, and vulgar talk when we are not vigilant. For the Stoics, this discipline was intrinsically linked to the virtue of self-control. Every time you refrain from a complaint, you are not just holding your tongue, you are training your mind to endure discomfort without needing to externalize it. Every time you stop a piece of gossip, you are reinforcing your own integrity and refusing to be pulled into the dramas of others. And every time you resist the urge to boast, you are proving to yourself that your self-worth is not for sale and does not require public confirmation. This is how poverty of speech creates inner wealth, by redirecting the energy you once spent on verbal clutter inward to fortify your core principles. Let's translate this ancient wisdom into a practical mental shift you can practice today. Imagine a typical Monday morning scenario. You're running late, you spill coffee on your shirt, and then you hit every red light on the way to work. The automatic, untrained response is to walk into the office and immediately launch into a complaint to the first colleague you see. "You would not believe the morning I've had. Everything is going wrong. I spilled coffee everywhere. The traffic was a nightmare." This outburst might feel momentarily cathartic, but it accomplishes several negative things. It reinforces your own sense of victimhood. It broadcasts a lack of composure to your colleague, and it sets a negative tone for your entire day. Now apply the filter of poverty of speech. You experience the same series of events. You feel the same frustration, but instead of vocalizing the complaint, you consciously reframe it internally. You might simply state the facts to yourself without the emotional charge. "Coffee was spilled. I encountered heavy traffic." Then you pivot to a solution or a neutral observation. When you meet your colleague, you simply say "good morning" or offer a genuine question about their weekend. The mental shift is profound. By not giving voice to the complaint, you refuse to grant it power over your emotional state. You demonstrate to yourself that you can handle minor adversity without needing to make a public performance of it. This builds a quiet, resilient confidence that comes from knowing you are not at the mercy of every minor inconvenience. This practice extends powerfully into the realm of gossip and criticism. How often do we find ourselves drawn into conversations dissecting someone else's choices, appearance, or behavior? It can feel like a harmless way to connect, but poverty of speech challenges us to see it for what it often is: a drain on our own character, and a distraction from our own work. When you consciously choose not to participate in gossip, you are not being self-righteous. You are making a declaration of independence. You are stating that your sense of self does not require building itself up by tearing others down, even in conversation. Similarly, the habit of boasting, constantly mentioning your accomplishments, your possessions, or your busyness, is often a thinly veiled cry for external validation. When you practice poverty of speech and refrain from boasting, you are forced to sit with your achievements in silence. You learn to derive satisfaction from the action itself, from the knowledge that you did good work, rather than from the applause that may or may not follow. This internalizes your source of pride, making it something solid and permanent that cannot be taken away, rather than something fleeting that depends on the reaction of an audience. To truly feel the transformative effect of this habit, your challenge is to undertake a focused speech fast. This isn't a vow of complete silence, but a 1-hour experiment in extreme intentionality. For the next 60 minutes, commit to speaking only when it is absolutely necessary. Your primary mode will be listening. When you do speak, let your words pass through a 3-part filter. Is what I am about to say true? Is it necessary? Is it kind? You will be astonished at how much of our typical conversation fails to meet these criteria. During this hour, you will feel the initial urge to comment on the temperature, to complain about a minor annoyance, to share a piece of news about someone else. Each time you feel that urge and consciously choose to let it pass, you are performing a repetition for your confidence muscle. You are proving to yourself that you are in command of your impulses. The world will not fall apart if you do not voice that complaint. The conversation will not suffer if you do not offer that unsolicited opinion. What you will find instead is a growing sense of calm and control. You become an observer, a listener, a person who thinks before they speak. This single hour of practiced restraint can rewire your understanding of communication, revealing that true confidence isn't about having a lot to say, but about having the inner stability to be comfortable with saying only what truly matters. Nothing is inherently good or bad, it's your thinking that makes it so. This idea, so beautifully captured by Shakespeare centuries after the Stoics first articulated it, points to a truth that can utterly revolutionize your relationship with the world. We walk through life constantly slapping labels on everything we encounter. A promotion is good. A traffic jam is bad. A compliment is good. A critical comment is bad. We do this so automatically that we fail to see we are not reacting to the events themselves, but to the heavy layers of judgment we have instantly draped over them. The Stoics proposed a radical alternative, what they called the Doctrine of Indifference. They argued that everything outside of our own virtue and vice, our character and our choices, is fundamentally indifferent. It is neither good nor bad in itself. The rain that falls from the sky is just weather. It is a natural phenomenon. It is your personal judgment based on your desire for a sunny picnic that transforms that neutral rain into a bad event. The moment you internalize this distinction, you perform the ultimate act of psychological liberation. You stop being a pinball, bouncing between the bumpers of good and bad fortune, and become the calm observer who holds the power of interpretation firmly in your own hands. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher-emperor, constantly drilled this idea into his own mind. In his private meditations, he wrote, "Take away your opinion, and then there is taken away the complaint, I have been harmed. Take away the complaint, I have been harmed, and the harm is taken away." This is not a word game. It is a profound description of how our perception constructs our reality. The harm is not in the event. the missed promotion, the harsh word from a friend, but in our opinion that we have been wronged or diminished by it. When you withdraw that opinion, you withdraw the emotional sting. The event remains, but its power to wound you vanishes. This is the core of Stoic resilience. It is not about becoming emotionally numb or detached from life. It is about choosing which judgments to assent to and which to simply let pass by like clouds in the sky. Your confidence, then, is no longer tied to whether good things happen to you, but to your unshakable ability to meet all things, the welcomed and the unwelcomed, with a mind that refuses to be thrown off balance by its own hasty labels. Let's make this incredibly practical with the classic example of rain canceling a picnic. The untrained mind experiences a cascade of disappointment. The event is immediately labeled bad. This label then generates a series of frustrated thoughts and feelings: annoyance at the weather, sadness over the lost fun, perhaps even anger at the situation. The entire emotional state is predicated on that initial automatic judgment. Now apply the Stoic lens. The rain is simply rain. It is water falling from the atmosphere. It is a necessary part of the ecosystem. It is, in fact, the very same phenomenon that farmers pray for and that fills our reservoirs. The badness is not a property of the rain. It is a property of your plan for a picnic. Your judgment is the source of the problem. When you recognize this, you can consciously choose to relabel the event. Instead of "our picnic is ruined," you can think, "the weather has changed and our outdoor plan is no longer suitable." This neutral framing immediately lowers the emotional temperature. It transforms a minor tragedy into a simple change of plans. From this neutral starting point, your mind is free to be creative and resourceful. Well, if we can't have a picnic, we can have an indoor feast in the living room with blankets and candles. That could be even more cozy and memorable. The obstacle, as we've learned, becomes the way. But the first and most crucial step was to strip the event of its negative judgment and see it for what it is: a neutral circumstance awaiting your interpretation. This principle scales to events of much greater significance. Consider receiving a diagnosis of a chronic but manageable health condition. The immediate, gut-level judgment is often one of fear and devastation. This is a terrible, life-ruining thing. This judgment can lead to anxiety, depression, and a sense of a stolen future. The Stoic practice would be to first see the diagnosis itself as a neutral piece of information. It is a fact about your body. The terribleness is a judgment you are adding to it. This doesn't mean you ignore it or don't seek treatment. On the contrary, it means you approach it with clear-eyed reason rather than blind panic. From a neutral standpoint, you can ask better questions. What does this information allow me to do? How can I adjust my lifestyle to manage this condition effectively? What strengths might this challenge force me to develop? By removing the catastrophic label, you reclaim your agency. The condition is no longer a monstrous bad thing that has happened to you. It becomes a new set of parameters within which you will live your life, and within which you can still live a life of profound meaning, virtue, and even joy. Your confidence in the face of such a challenge comes from knowing that your well-being is determined by your response, not by the diagnosis itself. To begin weaving this liberating habit into your own thought patterns, take a moment for a simple but powerful exercise in relabeling. Cast your mind back over the last day or two and identify one event that you immediately categorized as unfortunate or bad. It could be something as small as spilling a drink or as significant as a work project being criticized. Now, on a piece of paper or just in your mind, practice the act of descriptive, non-judgmental relabeling. Instead of writing "I spilled my coffee, which was annoying," write "liquid transferred from my cup to the table." Instead of "my boss criticized my report," Write, my boss provided verbal feedback on the document I submitted. Notice how the second statement is flat, factual, and devoid of emotional charge. It describes what happened without telling a story about it. This is not about denying your feelings. It is about creating a gap between the raw event and the story you tell about it. In that gap, you will find a newfound freedom. You will discover that most of the weight you carry comes not from the events of your life, but from the heavy, often inaccurate, judgments you layer upon them. By practicing this relabeling, even on minor irritations, you are training your mind for the larger challenges, building a confidence rooted in the unshakable knowledge that you, and you alone, hold the power to name your experience. Don't just be thankful for the good things, be thankful for the hard things too. This is the radical pivot at the heart of our 15th habit, a practice that takes the common concept of gratitude and turns it into a powerful tool for forging resilience. We are often taught to count our blessings, to be grateful for our health, our family, our comforts, and that is a wonderful practice, but Stoic gratitude goes a step further, into territory that might initially feel counterintuitive or even uncomfortable. It asks you to actively appreciate the very struggles, oppositions, and setbacks that you would normally curse. Why would anyone do that? Because the Stoics understood a fundamental truth about human development. Comfort rarely builds character, but challenge always does. A smooth sea never made a skilled sailor, and a life without friction never produced a person of depth, strength, or unshakable confidence. The difficult person, the failed project, the financial pressure, these are not interruptions to your life's plan. They are the essential curriculum. They are the whetstone against which your character is sharpened, grinding away your weaknesses, your impatience, and your pride, and revealing the stronger, more capable edge of your true self beneath. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius, who faced endless political conspiracies, treacherous advisors, and the immense burden of ruling an empire, constantly modeled this habit in his private writings. In his meditations, he doesn't just endure difficult people, he expresses thanks for them. He writes, "The gods smile on those who can say, 'A kinder lot was yours, my soul, that now you have this experience to add to your store.'" And in another passage, he offers a direct prayer of gratitude for his own trainers in virtue, saying, "When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, 'The people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly. They are like this because they cannot tell good from evil. But I have seen the beauty of good and the ugliness of evil, and have recognized that the wrongdoer has a nature related to my own. And so none of them can hurt me. No one can implicate me in ugliness, nor can I feel angry at my relative or hate him. We were born to work together like feet, hands, and eyes." For Marcus, the difficult person was a gift from the gods, a divinely appointed sparring partner sent to test and improve his patience, his understanding, and his capacity for compassion. He wasn't thanking the universe for sending him villains. He was thanking it for providing him with the perfect training equipment to build his spiritual muscles. So, how do we translate this lofty philosophical ideal into a practical, Monday morning action? One of the most powerful methods is to literally write a thank you note in your journal to the person or situation that is currently causing you the most stress. This is not an email you will send. This is a private, therapeutic exercise for your own mind. Let's say you have a manager who is overly critical and micromanages your every move. The typical response is to fume, to complain to your partner, to update your resume in frustration. Now try the Stoic alternative. Open a notebook and write, "Dear manager's name, thank you." Then begin to list the specific ways this difficulty is forcing you to grow. Thank you for teaching me the importance of extreme attention to detail, even when it feels tedious. Thank you for showing me how not to lead a team, which is clarifying my own leadership style. Thank you for testing my patience and forcing me to practice maintaining my composure under pressure. Thank you for this obstacle, because overcoming it is making me a more meticulous, resilient, and self-possessed professional. The act of writing this down does something magical to your brain. It forces a cognitive shift from victimhood to agency. You stop seeing the manager as a tormentor and start seeing them as a rigorous, if unpleasant, coach. The situation hasn't changed, but your relationship to it has been completely transformed. You are no longer being persecuted, you are being trained. This habit extends far beyond difficult people to any form of opposition or struggle. Consider a financial squeeze that forces you to be more creative and resourceful with your budget. Instead of drowning in anxiety, you can practice gratitude for the lesson in frugality and the discovery of simple pleasures you had overlooked. Think about a personal goal you failed to achieve, a race you didn't finish, a promotion you didn't get. Instead of letting it define you as a failure, express gratitude for the clarity it provided. That failed race taught you exactly where your physical limits were, giving you a precise training plan for the future. The missed promotion might reveal that you were pursuing a path that didn't truly align with your strengths, redirecting you toward a more fulfilling career. The challenge itself contains the seed of its own solution, but you can only see it when you stop fighting the reality of the struggle and start looking for the gift hidden within it. This is how you build a confidence that is not dependent on everything going right, but one that is actually energized by things going wrong, because you have trained yourself to see the hidden curriculum in every setback. To make this a lived practice and not just an interesting idea, your challenge is to bring this down to one specific current struggle. Right now, bring to mind one source of ongoing stress or opposition in your life. It could be a health issue, a demanding project, a conflict with a neighbor, or an internal battle with a bad habit. Now, take out a piece of paper or open a note on your phone and complete this sentence. I could be grateful for this specific challenge because it is teaching me, and then force yourself to write down one concrete reason. It doesn't have to be profound. If the challenge is a noisy construction site next door, your reason might be, because it is teaching me the ability to focus despite distraction. If the challenge is a difficult fitness regimen, your reason could be, because it is teaching me the power of consistent, small efforts over time. The what you write is less important than the why. You are performing a deliberate act of cognitive alchemy, transforming the lead of a painful experience into the gold of personal growth. This single, small act of reframing is a declaration of war on helplessness. It is you stating to yourself and to the universe that nothing that happens to you is wasted, and that every single experience, especially the hard ones, are raw materials you will use to build a stronger, wiser, and more confidently resilient version of yourself. Consider the arc of human history, the rise and fall of empires, the generations that have come and gone, the countless lives each filled with their own unique joys and sorrows, ambitions and regrets, and then see your own life within that immense frame. This is the 16th habit, a profound Stoic exercise known as contemplating the vastness of time. It is a mental journey that places your brief, vivid existence against the backdrop of eternity, not to make you feel small or insignificant, but to instill a liberating sense of perspective. When you feel the hot flush of embarrassment over a minor mistake or the gnawing anxiety about securing your legacy, this practice acts as a cooling balm. It gently reminds you that your moment on this stage is fleeting, and in the grand, sweeping narrative of the cosmos, your personal dramas, while deeply important to you, are but a single, brief note in an eternal symphony. This realization doesn't trivialize your life, it clarifies it. It helps you distinguish between what is truly essential and what is merely ego, fostering a quiet, enduring confidence that is no longer desperate for the world's applause or terrified of its ridicule. Marcus Aurelius, from his position as the most powerful man in the known world, constantly returned to this meditation to ground himself. He would write reminders to himself like, "Remember how long you've been putting this off, how many extensions the gods gave you, and you didn't use them." At some point, you have to recognize what world it is that you belong to, what power rules it, and from what source you spring, that there is a limit to the time assigned you, and unless you use it to clear away your fog, it will be gone, and you will be gone, and the chance will not come again. And in another poignant passage, he reflects on the ultimate fate of even the most celebrated lives, noting that soon you will have forgotten the world, and soon the world will have forgotten you. All of us, he observes, are soon buried in the dust of time, our names and deeds worn away by the endless centuries. For Marcus, this wasn't a depressing thought. It was a call to focus. If fame is an illusion that time inevitably dissolves, and if life is undeniably short, then the only rational response is to pour all of your energy into the one thing that has lasting value in the present moment, living with virtue. Your confidence, then, shifts from being based on your reputation or your lasting impact to being based on the integrity of your actions right now, in the time you are actually given. Let's apply this cosmic perspective to the kinds of anxieties that can dominate our daily lives. Imagine you're at a social gathering and you accidentally spill a drink, or you say something that comes out awkwardly and draws a few uncomfortable glances. The untrained mind can spiral into a vortex of self-consciousness. You might replay the moment for hours or even days, cringing inwardly, convinced that everyone is still talking about your clumsiness or your social ineptitude. This is your ego, inflated to believe that your momentary stumble is the center of everyone else's universe. Now, activate the habit of contemplating the vastness of time. Take a mental step back. See that room not as the entire world, but as one small room on one small street in one city, among billions on a planet that has existed for billions of years. See the people in that room as fellow fleeting travelers, each consumed with their own worries, their own forgotten embarrassments, their own brief lives. How important, truly, is that spilled drink in the face of all that? The event itself is a microscopic blip. The only thing giving it power is your own focused attention on it. By widening the lens, you drain the situation of its traumatic power. You can laugh it off, clean it up, and move on, your confidence intact because your sense of self is no longer hostage to a single, inconsequential moment. This practice is equally powerful for navigating professional setbacks. Consider a project you worked on for months that ultimately fails, or a presentation that falls flat. The immediate feeling can be one of profound shame and a fear that this failure will define your entire career. But when you view this event from the perspective of the vastness of time, its scale changes dramatically. In 5 years, will this single project be the thing you remember most about your life? In 50 years, will anyone but you even recall that it happened? In 500 years, the very company you work for may be a forgotten footnote in a history book, if it is remembered at all. This isn't to say your work doesn't matter. It matters immensely because it is the arena in which you practice your virtues today, your diligence, your creativity, your resilience. But the outcome of any single project is ultimately a tiny speck in the flow of time. This understanding liberates you from the fear of failure. It allows you to take bold risks, to learn from your mistakes without being crippled by them, and to pour your passion into your work not for the sake of an immortal legacy, but for the inherent satisfaction of doing something well and virtuously in the brief, precious time you have. Your confidence becomes rooted in the quality of your effort, not the fickle judgment of a result that time will soon erase. To feel the immediate, calming effect of this practice, take a journey in your own mind. Cast your thoughts back to roughly 5 years ago. Try to recall with as much clarity as you can what was, at that time, your single biggest worry. What was the problem that kept you up at night, the source of anxiety that felt all-consuming, as if your entire future happiness depended on resolving it? It might have been a looming exam, a turbulent relationship, a financial crisis, or a deep uncertainty about your career path. Now, bring your awareness to the present. How much does that specific worry affect you today? For most of us, the sharp edges of that past anxiety have been completely worn smooth by time. The problem was either resolved or it wasn't, and life continued on regardless. The catastrophic outcomes you feared likely never materialized. The intensity you felt has faded into a distant, almost foreign memory. This simple act of retrospection is proof of the principle. The worries that feel so monumental in the present are almost always revealed with the gentle passage of time to be far less permanent and far less powerful than they appeared. By regularly contemplating the vastness of time, you are essentially fast-forwarding your present anxieties into the future, where you can see their true, diminished size. This doesn't make you careless or apathetic. It makes you wise. It allows you to engage with your current challenges with a calmer heart and a clearer head, armed with the quiet confidence of one who knows that this too shall pass, and that what truly endures is the character you build while navigating the journey. What would a confident, virtuous version of you do in this situation? Now, take a moment and truly answer that question, not with a wishful thought, but with a specific, concrete action. This is the heart of our 17th habit, a profoundly practical Stoic exercise that cuts through the common misconception that we must first feel a certain way before we can act that way. We often believe the sequence is a feel confident, then act confidently. The Stoics propose we reverse the engine, act confidently, and through that very action, you will build the genuine feeling of confidence from the inside out. This is because virtue, in the Stoic view, is not a mystical quality you are born with or without. It is a skill, a craft honed through relentless practice. A carpenter becomes a carpenter by building. A musician becomes a musician by playing. In the same way, you become a courageous, wise, and self-possessed person by performing courageous, wise, and self-possessed actions, especially when you don't feel like it. Your character is not a pre-written script you discover. It is a sculpture you carve with the chisel of your daily choices and behaviors. This principle is deeply embedded in Stoic teachings, even if the exact phrase "act as if" isn't a direct quote. The entire philosophy is oriented toward action, not passive contemplation. Epictetus constantly directed his students away from abstract theorizing and toward lived application. His admonition to endure and renounce is a call to action, to endure hardship with fortitude, and to renounce unhealthy desires with self-discipline. He taught that progress in philosophy is measured not by the books you've read, but by the quality of your choices, the state of your desires and aversions, and how you conduct yourself in your daily duties. The focus is always on the deed. You can intend to be patient all day long, but if you snap at the first person who irritates you, your intention is meaningless. It is the action of taking a deep breath and responding calmly despite the internal storm that forges the habit of patience. Every time you successfully act as if you are patient, you are depositing evidence into your psychological bank account. You are creating a track record for yourself that says, "I am someone who handles frustration with grace." Over time, this accumulated evidence transforms your self-perception. You begin to trust yourself because you have a history of reliable, virtuous action to point to. This is how acting as if builds a self-trust that is unshakable, because it is earned through demonstrated performance, not borrowed from fleeting feelings. Let's translate this into a vivid, practical scenario that anyone can relate to. Walking into a room full of people where you don't know anyone. The untrained mind, governed by feeling, might hesitate at the doorway. It scans the room, feels a flutter of social anxiety, and whispers old stories of not belonging. The body language follows this internal script. Shoulders slump, eyes drop to the floor, and you might find a safe corner to hide in with your phone. Now, let's apply the act as if framework. Before you even step through the door, you pause and ask that key question. What would a genuinely confident and welcoming version of me do in this situation? You don't need to feel confident, you just need to identify the actions. The confident version would stand up straight, with their shoulders back and their head held high. They would make gentle eye contact and offer a small, genuine smile. They would walk into the room not as an intruder, but as someone who has a right to be there and is interested in connecting with others. So you do exactly that. You consciously adjust your posture, you arrange your face into a calm smile, and you walk in. The miracle is that the action itself begins to reshape the feeling. Your body's posture sends signals to your brain that you are safe and in command. The act of smiling can subtly lift your mood. Someone might see your open demeanor and approach you, starting a conversation. Your initial as if action has now created a positive feedback loop, generating the very confidence you are only pretending to have at the start. The line between acting and being begins to blur until the virtuous action is no longer an act at all. It has become a natural expression of who you are. This practice is incredibly versatile, applying to nearly every arena of life where you wish to grow. Imagine you aspire to be a more disciplined writer or artist. The feeling of inspiration is fickle and unreliable. If you wait to feel inspired, you may never start. The person you want to become, however, is disciplined. They show up at their desk at the same time every day, regardless of how they feel. So you act as if. You set the alarm, you sit down, and you put in the time, even if what you produce feels mediocre. The action of showing up is the victory. It is the repetition of that action, day after day, that forges the identity of a writer. Or consider a conflict at home. You feel hurt and want to lash out. But the person you want to be, the virtuous, compassionate partner, would seek to understand before being understood. So you act as if. You take a breath, you soften your tone, and you ask a question instead of launching an accusation. I felt hurt when this happened. Can you help me understand your perspective? This single action, chosen over the easier, more reactive one, doesn't just resolve a single argument, it builds your character as a patient and understanding communicator. Each time you choose the action of the person you wish to become, you are casting a vote for that version of yourself. You are not waiting for a magical transformation, you are actively building it, one deliberate deed at a time. Your challenge, then, is to move from understanding to embodiment. Tomorrow, select just one situation in your day, a meeting, a difficult conversation, a personal habit, or even a solitary task, and consciously decide to act as if for that entire scenario. Don't make it overly complicated. It could be as simple as acting as if you are a focused and present listener during a team meeting, which means putting your phone away, making eye contact, and reflecting back what you hear. It could be acting as if you are a calm and capable professional when presenting, which means speaking clearly and pausing thoughtfully, even if your heart is racing. Or it could be acting as if you are a person who values their health, which means choosing a nutritious meal over a convenient junk food option. The specific situation matters less than the intentionality behind your action. Before you enter that situation, take 10 seconds to clarify. What is the one core virtue I want to embody here? Is it courage? Is it diligence? Is it kindness? Then identify one or two tangible actions that would demonstrate that virtue, and then simply do them. Do not wait for the feeling to arrive. Let the action lead the way. Observe what happens, not just in the external world, but inside you. Notice the quiet sense of empowerment that comes from taking conscious command of your behavior. This is the alchemy of character building, where through the consistent repetition of right action, you slowly and surely become the person you have always had the potential to be. Your confidence grows in inverse proportion to your desires. In a world that screams at you from every screen and billboard to want more, acquire more, and upgrade constantly, this Stoic principle feels like a quiet rebellion. But it's a rebellion that leads directly to a profound and unshakable form of self-assurance. Think about it. Every desire for something outside of yourself, a newer car, a bigger house, more social media followers, a higher status, is like handing over a small piece of your inner peace to the fickle hands of fortune. You are effectively saying, my happiness and my sense of self-worth are contingent upon me obtaining this thing. This creates a permanent state of vulnerability. What if you don't get it? You feel failure. What if you get it and then lose it? You feel grief. What if someone else has a better version? You feel envy. This endless cycle of wanting, getting, and fearing loss is a recipe for anxiety, not confidence. The Stoic alternative is radical yet simple. Systematically limit your desires. By consciously wanting less, you dramatically shrink the surface area that the world can strike. You become like a fortress with fewer gates, making it incredibly difficult for external circumstances to breach your inner peace. Your confidence then ceases to depend on what you have and becomes rooted in the unassailable knowledge of who you are and what you can endure. The Roman philosopher Seneca, a man of immense wealth who constantly reflected on its dangers, wrote extensively about the direct link between desire and turmoil. In his moral letters, he argues that the person who has many desires also has many needs, and therefore has many points of vulnerability. He observes that we suffer more in imagination than in reality, and that our boundless desires are the primary fuel for that suffering. He advised, set a limit to your desires so that your life may be peaceful and your mind undisturbed. For Seneca, the goal was not self-punishing austerity, but a state of tranquility, a calm and steady mind that cannot be thrown off balance by the presence or absence of material things. His contemporary, Epictetus, who lived a life of simplicity, took this even further. He taught his students that the secret to freedom is not in satisfying your desires, but in eliminating them. He famously said, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants." This is a complete redefinition of what it means to be rich. The truly wealthy person, in the Stoic sense, is not the one with the most money in the bank, but the one who is most content with what they already have. Their confidence comes from a deep internal abundance, a knowledge that they are already complete, and that no external object or achievement is required to validate their worth. This internal wealth is immune to market crashes, social slights, and the whims of fashion. It is a fortune that you carry with you everywhere, and one that no one can ever take away. So, how do we practice this in a consumer culture that is engineered to make us feel perpetually inadequate? The answer lies in small, deliberate acts of resistance. One of the most powerful exercises is what you might call a want fast. This is not about depriving yourself of necessities, but about consciously choosing to not acquire something you desire but do not genuinely need. For 1 week, make a pact with yourself. When you feel the impulse to buy a non-essential item, be it a new piece of clothing, the latest tech gadget, or even an extra coffee from the fancy cafe, you pause. You acknowledge the desire, and then you make the conscious choice to let it pass without acting on it. You don't buy it. The goal here is not to live a life of lack, but to break the automatic connection between the feeling of I want and the action of I acquire. You are training your mind to see the desire as a mere suggestion, not a command. Each time you successfully let a want pass by, you are performing a repetition for your confidence muscle. You are proving to yourself that you are not a slave to your impulses. The craving for the object arises, it peaks, and then, when you don't feed it, it subsides. And you remain standing strong, having discovered that you are perfectly okay without it. This simple act is incredibly empowering. It shifts the locus of control from the external world of objects back to your internal world of choice. The profound benefit of this habit is that it systematically builds self-reliance. When you stop looking for satisfaction in the next purchase or the next achievement, you are forced to find it within your own being. You start to appreciate the simple, abundant pleasures that cost nothing and can never be taken away. A conversation with a good friend, a walk in the park, the satisfaction of a job well done, the quiet of a morning before the world wakes up. Your happiness becomes unbuyable. Your confidence becomes untouchable. You are no longer in a perpetual race to acquire symbols of success. You are the success itself, measured by the integrity of your character and the peace in your mind. This doesn't mean you can't own nice things or strive for goals. It means that your relationship to those things is transformed. You own them, they do not own you. You pursue goals for the virtuous action and growth they provide, not for the external validation they might bring. You are free. To make this personal, take a moment right now and bring to mind 3 things you currently want but do not actually need. Be honest, it could be a specific brand of sneakers, a vacation, a professional title, or more likes on a social media post. Now, for each one, play a little mental movie. Imagine you obtain it. You buy the sneakers, you go on the vacation, you get the promotion. Follow the story all the way through. The initial thrill, the dopamine hit of acquisition. And then fast forward a week, a month, a year. Has that object fundamentally altered your baseline level of happiness, or has the glow faded, leaving you exactly where you started, only now with a new desire already beginning to form? This exercise in honest reflection reveals a startling truth. The satisfaction we seek from fulfilling desires is almost always temporary. The confidence that comes from mastering those desires, however, is permanent. It is the confidence of knowing that you are and always will be enough. Try Premeditatio Malorum, not as a practice to fear loss, but as a powerful exercise to love what you have more deeply. While we previously explored visualizing future challenges to build resilience, this habit turns that same powerful lens inward onto the blessings you already possess. It is the deliberate, periodic contemplation of losing the people, the possessions, and the circumstances that make up your current life. At first glance, this might sound like a recipe for anxiety, a way to torment yourself with sad thoughts. But the Stoic purpose is precisely the opposite. By mentally rehearsing the absence of what you hold dear, you accomplish 2 profound things simultaneously. You shatter the complacency that takes your good fortune for granted, and you prove to your deepest self that even in the face of that loss, your core, your ability to reason, to choose virtue, to endure, would remain unbroken. This is the ultimate confidence builder because it severs the invisible chains of attachment that make you vulnerable to fortune's whims. The Roman philosopher Seneca was a master of this practice, and he wrote about it with stunning clarity. In his consolation to his mother, Helvia, during his own exile, he didn't ask for pity. Instead, he argued that the worst had already been contemplated, and therefore its power was diminished. He advised that we should remind ourselves that we will inevitably lose everything we love, so that we may love it more fully while it is still here. He wrote, "He who has not anticipated the coming of troubles takes away their power when they arrive." This is the core of the exercise. You are not inviting disaster, you are inoculating your soul against the paralyzing shock of it. By walking through the landscape of loss in your imagination, you familiarize yourself with its terrain. When you do this, you discover a startling truth: the world does not end. In your visualization, you wake up the next day, you breathe, you find a way to carry on. This discovery is incredibly empowering. It proves that your security was never truly in the external object itself, but in your resilient capacity to live without it. Your confidence then shifts from being dependent on fragile externals to being rooted in your proven, internal capacity to adapt and endure. Let's make this a tangible experience right now. Find a quiet moment just for the next 60 seconds. Close your eyes and bring to mind your home, the room you are in, the familiar sounds and smells, the comfort and safety it provides. Now begin the visualization. Imagine that a sudden event, a fire, a storm, has taken it all away. The walls are gone. Your possessions, the photos, the books, the little trinkets that hold memories are all ash and rubble. There is only an empty space where your home once stood. Sit with that feeling for a moment. Feel the disorientation, the grief, the sheer emptiness of it. Now open your eyes, look around you, see the walls, the furniture, the light coming through the window. Notice what happens. The room is no longer just a room, it is a miracle. The chair you are sitting on is not just a chair, it is a gift. The simple fact of having a roof over your head floods you with a wave of gratitude that is far more intense and real than the casual appreciation you felt just moments before. You have not lost your home, you have, through this mental exercise, found it again. You have shaken off the dust of familiarity and seen it with fresh eyes as if for the first time. This is the alchemy of Premeditatio Malorum. It transforms taking for granted into active, heartfelt gratitude. This practice extends with even greater power to the people we love. We so often move through our days with our partners, our children, our close friends, assuming they will simply always be there. We get annoyed by their small habits. We take their presence for granted. We postpone meaningful connection because we believe there will always be more time. Negative visualization shatters this dangerous illusion. Spend 1 minute today, perhaps before you see them after work, consciously imagining your life without this person. Picture the silence where their laughter used to be. Feel the hollow space in your life their absence would create. This is not a morbid exercise, it is an exercise in profound love. When you then actually see them, you will not see them through the fog of your daily irritations. You will see them as the incredible, temporary, and precious gift that they truly are. Your patience will be deeper, your attention will be more focused, and your love will be more active and present. You are not waiting for an actual loss to appreciate what you had. You are using the tool of imagination to appreciate what you have right now at its fullest possible volume. The ultimate result of this habit is a state of psychological freedom. When you regularly contemplate the loss of your status, you become less of a slave to public opinion. When you visualize the loss of your wealth, you loosen its grip on your sense of self-worth. This doesn't mean you become indifferent or cease to care. On the contrary, you begin to care more authentically because your care is no longer mixed with the frantic energy of clinging and fear. Your enjoyment of the good things in life becomes purer, more intense, and more joyful because it is free from the underlying anxiety that you might lose them. You can love your partner without the fear of them leaving because you have already faced that fear in your mind and know you would survive. You can enjoy your success without the terror of failure because you have already visualized starting from nothing and found yourself still intact. This is the unshakable confidence that Premeditatio Malorum builds, a confidence that comes not from having everything, but from knowing with absolute certainty that you have the inner strength to face the loss of anything. You are no longer a tenant in your own life, anxiously fearing eviction. You are the owner of your own soul, and everything else is a welcome but non-essential guest. Today, make it your goal to pass judgment on no one. This single, simple rule, if you truly take it to heart, can unlock a level of mental quiet and inner stability that feels almost like a superpower. We live in a world that constantly encourages us to evaluate, rate, and critique everyone around us. Their choices, their appearances, their driving, their political views. It's a mental habit so ingrained that it feels automatic, like breathing. But what we fail to see is the immense psychological tax this habit extracts. Every judgment we pass is a tiny leak of our own mental energy. It pulls us out of our own center and into the turbulent, uncontrollable world of other people's actions and motives. When you decide, just for one day, to suspend this entire internal courtroom, something remarkable happens. The constant background noise of criticism and categorization falls silent, and in that newfound quiet, you discover a vast reservoir of calm self-assurance that was always there, just waiting for you to stop wasting your focus on everyone else. The Stoic Emperor Marcus Aurelius provided perhaps the most compassionate and psychologically astute framework for this practice. In his private meditations, he wasn't just telling himself to be patient with difficult people, he was actively reframing their very nature to protect his own peace. He wrote to himself, when you are offended by someone's impudence, ask yourself, can the world exist without impudent people? No, then do not ask for the impossible. He understood that expecting everyone to act with perfect virtue and wisdom was as futile as expecting the weather to always be sunny. It simply wasn't in the nature of things. In another profound passage, he drills down even deeper, reminding himself, you can also feel annoyance at things which are in the nature of the universe as soon as you take them personally. But the person who wrongs you does so from their own opinion because they believe it to be right or necessary. They cannot see things as you see them. This is the core of the Stoic insight. People act based on their own limited knowledge, their own unexamined biases, their own fears and desires. When someone acts poorly, it is not a personal attack on the cosmic order. It is a manifestation of their own ignorance about what is truly good. To be angry with them for their ignorance is like being angry with a child for not understanding calculus. It is a fundamental misplacement of your energy. Your job is not to correct their ignorance in the moment, which is almost always impossible, but to protect your own mind from being infected by it. Let's translate this from the imperial court to the morning commute, a perfect laboratory for this practice. You're driving along and another car swerves abruptly into your lane without signaling, forcing you to hit your brakes. The immediate, untrained reaction is a flash of heat, a surge of adrenaline, and a burst of internal, or sometimes external, name-calling. What a jerk, an idiot, they did that on purpose. This judgment feels satisfying in the moment, a way to release the tension. But what follows? Your heart is still racing. Your grip on the wheel is tight. You might spend the next several minutes or even miles mentally rehearsing the event, telling the story of the idiot driver to yourself, keeping your own nervous system in a state of high alert. Now apply the Stoic lens. The event is the same. A car moved into your lane, but instead of assenting to the judgment of jerk, you pause and apply reason. You consider that person is not a monolithic idiot. They are a human being acting from their own reality. Perhaps they are a parent rushing to a sick child at school and are distracted by fear. Maybe they are a new driver, unfamiliar with the area, and genuinely didn't see you. Or perhaps they are simply having a terrible day, consumed by their own worries, and made a careless mistake, just as you and I have done countless times. This isn't about making excuses for them, it's about freeing you. By withholding the label, you drain the event of its personal insult. It becomes a simple traffic maneuver by a fallible human, not a targeted act of aggression against you. Your physiological response calms, your breathing slows, you regain your composure and continue your drive in peace, your precious mental energy preserved for the things that actually matter in your life. This practice extends far beyond the steering wheel and into every social and professional interaction. Think about a colleague at work who consistently takes credit for shared ideas. The easy judgment is to label them as conniving, selfish, and manipulative. This judgment fuels resentment, poisons your work environment, and turns every collaboration into a tense competition. But the Stoic practitioner would look deeper. They might consider that this person is acting from a place of deep insecurity, a frantic need for validation that they mistakenly believe can only be met through external recognition. Their behavior, while frustrating, stems from a flawed belief about what constitutes true worth, not from a conscious desire to harm you. This perspective doesn't mean you become a doormat. You can still take practical steps to document your contributions and assert yourself professionally. But you do so from a place of calm strategy, not from a place of seething, judgment-fueled anger. The energy you save by not constantly fuming about their character can be redirected into your own excellent work, into building alliances with others, or simply into enjoying your own life outside of the office. You stop allowing another person's flawed nature to dictate your internal weather. The ultimate reward for this discipline is the reclaiming of your own attention. Judgment is a form of mental captivity. When you are constantly evaluating others, you are tethered to them. Your mind is in their space, not your own. Letting go of judgment is like cutting 1,000 tiny strings that were tying you to the actions and opinions of everyone around you. You pull your focus back into your own citadel, into the one place where you have absolute sovereignty, your own mind, your own values, your own chosen actions. This creates an incredible sense of spaciousness and calm. The chatter dies down. The need to be right, to condemn, to feel superior simply evaporates. What remains is a quiet, solid confidence that comes from self-possession. You are no longer looking sideways, comparing and critiquing. You are looking forward, focused on your own path and your own progress. To truly feel the weight of this habit, your challenge for today is to become a silent observer of your own thoughts. Don't try to stop judgments from arising. That's nearly impossible. Instead, just commit to catching yourself in the very act of judging someone. The moment you hear that internal voice label a stranger, a politician, a family member, or a coworker, simply notice it. Acknowledge the thought without following it, and then make a conscious choice to let it go. Watch it pass by like a cloud in the sky. Each time you do this, you are not just avoiding a negative thought, you are actively strengthening your mind's executive function. You are proving to yourself that you are the master of your attention, and in that mastery lies a peace and a confidence that no external person or event can ever take from you. Concentrate every minute on doing what's in front of you with precise and genuine seriousness, tenderly, willingly, with justice, and with freedom from all side effects. This powerful directive from Marcus Aurelius cuts straight to the heart of a modern epidemic, the feeling of being completely overwhelmed by the sheer scale of our responsibilities. We look at the mountain of a project, the endless to-do list, the distant deadline, and our mind freezes. It's not the individual tasks that paralyze us. It's the terrifying, monolithic weight of the whole thing. We become so preoccupied with the entire journey that we can't take the first step. The Stoic antidote to this paralysis is to radically narrow your focus. Confidence in this view is not built by having a perfect, overarching plan for the entire mountain. It is built brick by brick through the simple, repeated act of laying one single brick perfectly with your full and undivided attention. When you give yourself completely to the task immediately before you, you are not just making progress, you are proving to yourself in that very moment that you are competent, capable, and in control. The calm that follows is not the absence of work, but the presence of complete engagement. Marcus Aurelius, the man responsible for the entire Roman Empire, had more reason than anyone to feel crushed by the weight of his duties. Yet in his private journal, he constantly brought himself back to this microscopic focus. The full passage from which that line is taken is a masterpiece of practical psychology. He continues, "You see how few things you have to do to live a satisfying and reverent life. If you can manage this, that's all even the gods can ask of you." He is reminding himself that his job is not to single-handedly control the fate of the empire for all eternity. His job is to do the next right thing with integrity and focus. He advises himself to act as if every action were his last, to perform it with unwavering attention, free from all wandering thoughts. This freedom from side effects he mentions is the freedom from worrying about the outcome, the freedom from being distracted by what comes next, the freedom from the opinions of others. When you pour yourself entirely into the present duty, you are, for that moment, utterly free. There is no room for anxiety about the future or regret about the past because all of your mental capacity is consumed by the proficient execution of the present moment. This is how competence is forged, and from that competence blooms a quiet, unshakable confidence. Let's bring this down from the imperial throne to a very common modern scenario, a large work project with a deadline that is weeks away. The project involves research, writing, design, and coordination with a team. The untrained mind looks at this beast and immediately feels a surge of dread. The brain tries to hold the entire complex structure at once, which is impossible, and so it defaults to anxiety and procrastination. You might open a document, stare at the blank screen, and feel the weight of all the unwritten pages. So you check your email, you scroll through news feeds, you do anything but the work itself because the work feels too big to even start. Now, apply the Stoic lens of focusing on the task at hand. You do not think about the final report. You do not think about the presentation in 3 weeks. You ask yourself one question: what is the absolute next, smallest, most manageable step? Perhaps it is not write the report, but spend the next 25 minutes researching and summarizing the first key point. That is your entire world for those 25 minutes. You close all other browser tabs, you silence your phone, your universe shrinks to that single article, that one notepad. You are not writing a report, you are summarizing a concept. The feeling is completely different. The overwhelming pressure vanishes because the task is no longer overwhelming. It is finite, clear, and within your capacity. Each time you complete one of these focused sessions, you bank a small success. You build a track record of competence. The mountain ceases to be a terrifying monolith and becomes a simple collection of small, manageable paths, each one walked with purpose and presence. This principle applies with equal force to personal goals that feel intimidating. Imagine you want to get into better physical shape. The thought of getting fit is abstract and huge. It brings to mind months of grueling workouts and dietary deprivation, a future so demanding that it's easier to just stay on the couch. The Stoic approach would be to forget the entire abstract goal of fitness. Your only job today is to put on your shoes and walk for 15 minutes. That's it. You are not getting fit, you are taking a walk. you give that walk your full attention. You feel the air, you notice your breathing, you observe the rhythm of your steps. You do it with precise and genuine seriousness, as Marcus says. The action is small, but the focus is total. After you finish, you have not transformed your body, but you have done something more important. You have reinforced your identity as someone who follows through. You have built a brick of confidence. Tomorrow, your task might be another 15-minute walk, or perhaps a few simple bodyweight exercises. The goal is not the distant horizon of a fit body. The goal is the flawless execution of the present movement. The fit body becomes the inevitable side effect of thousands of such perfectly focused moments. To truly integrate this habit and experience its power, your challenge is to move from understanding to immediate action. Identify one single task that you have been putting off, the kind that lurks in the back of your mind and creates a low hum of guilt or anxiety. It might be a messy closet, a difficult email you need to write, or the first step of a creative project. Now make a pact with yourself. You are not going to finish the entire task. You are not even going to work on it for a long time. You are going to give it your undivided attention for just the next 15 minutes. Set a timer for those 15 minutes. This is your universe. If it's the closet, you are not cleaning the whole closet. You are merely sorting the items on one shelf. If it's the email, you are not crafting the perfect message. You are just writing a rough draft of the first 2 sentences. The only rule is that for these 15 minutes, you do nothing else. You are practicing the Stoic discipline of focus, building your competence one concentrated moment at a time. When the timer goes off, you will have accomplished more than just a small bit of progress. You will have proven to yourself that you can face a daunting task not with panic, but with calm, purposeful action. This is the very essence of building confidence from the inside out, not through a single grand gesture, but through the quiet, consistent practice of mastering the minute that is right in front of you. Are you reading to check a box, or are you reading to change your life? In our modern world of infinite scrolling and bite-sized content, we have become masters of consumption. We skim articles, listen to podcasts at double speed, and collect facts and quotes like trophies, believing that accumulating information is the same as gaining wisdom. But the Stoics drew a sharp, crucial line between merely understanding a concept and having it so deeply ingrained in your being that it automatically guides your actions in moments of stress, temptation, or fear. This 20-second habit is about making that fundamental shift from passive consumption to active integration. It's about treating philosophy not as an intellectual pastime, but as a form of mental and spiritual nutrition that you must digest thoroughly before it can become the source of your strength and confidence. Real, unshakable self-assurance doesn't come from having read all the books. It comes from having allowed a few profound truths to read you, to question you, and to reshape you from the inside out. The Roman philosopher Seneca, in his moral letters to his friend Lucilius, was remarkably direct about this distinction. He observed that people often jump from book to book, never settling down to truly absorb what they have read. He warned against this disease of a restless mind that collects knowledge without applying it. His advice was to do the opposite. He wrote, "You must linger among a limited number of master thinkers and digest their works if you would derive ideas which shall win firm hold in your mind." Notice the powerful language he uses: linger, digest, win firm hold. This is the language of deep metabolic process. You are not a storage bin for wisdom. You are a living system that must break down the raw material of philosophy into a form your character can use for fuel and structure. A person who skims 100 books may be able to win a trivia contest, but the person who has fully digested a single paragraph from Marcus Aurelius, who has grappled with its meaning, tested it against their own experience, and written it onto their heart, that person walks through the world with a quiet confidence that no trivial fact can ever provide. Their wisdom is operational, not just informational. So, what does this deep, integrative reading look like in practice, especially when our habits are so conditioned toward speed and quantity? Let's take one of the most famous texts, Marcus Aurelius's Meditations. The common approach might be to decide to read 10 pages a day, racing through the emperor's private thoughts to reach the end of the book. The integrative approach is radically different. You open the book to a random page, or you start at the beginning, and you read just one single paragraph. Just one. For example, you might read this line from Book 2, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." Now, instead of nodding, thinking that's deep, and moving on to the next paragraph, you close the book. You sit with that one sentence. You take out a journal. This is the non-negotiable second step, and you begin to write. You don't just paraphrase the quote. You let it interrogate your life. You write a response. Marcus tells me I could leave life right now. What does that mean for me today? It means the difficult conversation I've been avoiding with my partner is not something I can postpone indefinitely. My time is limited. My confidence here comes not from knowing the conversation will go well, but from knowing that having it honestly is the right thing to do, regardless of the outcome. What is one thing I would stop doing if I took this idea seriously? I would stop wasting my evenings mindlessly scrolling, a habit that makes me feel passive and discontent. What would I start? I would start that small creative project I've been talking about for years, because someday is not a day on the calendar. This process of reading and journaling turns a historical quote into a living conversation. You are no longer just a reader. You are a participant, actively weaving Stoic wisdom into the fabric of your own choices and challenges. The true power of this method is that it systematically closes the gap between knowledge and action. It's one thing to intellectually agree that you shouldn't worry about things outside your control. It's an entirely different thing to be stuck in a traffic jam, feel the frustration rising, and have the ingrained mental reflex to pause and say, "This traffic is outside my control." My reaction is not, "I can use this time to listen to music I enjoy or simply practice patience." That reflex isn't built by reading the Dichotomy of Control once. It's built by the dozens of times you wrote about it in your journal, applying it to a stressful work meeting, a disagreement with a friend, or a personal disappointment. Each journal entry is a rehearsal for real life. You are creating neural pathways and cognitive shortcuts so that when the moment of truth arrives, the Stoic principle is not a distant memory but the most readily available tool in your hand. Your confidence soars because you are no longer hoping you'll remember the right thing to do. You have trained yourself through repeated contemplation to become the person who does the right thing. To begin this transformative practice today, you don't need a library of books or hours of free time. Your invitation is to start small, but start deep. Later today, find just 5 minutes of quiet. Open a copy of Meditations or the Enchiridion of Epictetus or a letter from Seneca. Let your eyes fall on a single sentence. Read it slowly, aloud if you can, letting the words resonate. Then close the book, take a pen and paper. The physical act of writing makes this more concrete than typing, and explore that one idea. How does it challenge you? How does it comfort you? Where does it collide with your current way of living? Then, take one more step. Carry that single sentence with you for the rest of the day. Write it on a note card or save it as your phone's lock screen. Let it be your silent companion. When you face a moment of irritation or a spark of anxiety or a chance to be courageous, bring that sentence to mind. See how its meaning shifts and deepens when it's no longer just text on a page, but a living voice speaking directly into your current situation. This is how philosophy ceases to be a subject and starts to become a part of your soul, building a confidence that is as deep as the roots of the wisdom you have taken the time to truly make your own. Let praise wash over you without inflating you, and let criticism wash over you without deflating you. This state of perfect balance is the final destination in our journey to rebuild confidence from the inside out, because it represents the ultimate liberation from needing anyone else's approval to feel whole. Most of us are on a perpetual seesaw, lifted high by a compliment only to be slammed down by the next piece of negative feedback, our sense of self bobbing on the turbulent ocean of other people's opinions. The Stoic, however, has built their home on the solid ground of their own character. They understand that both praise and blame are external events, as changeable and uncontrollable as the weather. Your worth is not a fluctuating stock price determined by the market of public opinion. It is a fixed asset, grounded in the integrity of your efforts and the virtue of your intentions. When you master this habit, you become emotionally waterproof. The storms of judgment may rage around you, but you remain dry, centered, and secure, your confidence emanating from a source that no one else can touch. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus, with his characteristically sharp and practical wisdom, gave us a brilliantly simple analogy for this. He said, "If someone tells you that so and so is speaking ill of you, don't defend yourself against the story, but instead reply, 'Yes, and he doesn't know the rest of my faults, or he would have mentioned those too.'" But then he applies the exact same logic to its opposite. He teaches that if someone calls you a donkey, you shouldn't be upset or spend your energy trying to prove you are not one. Why? Because the opinion that you are a donkey is just that, an opinion. It is a sound in the air, a judgment formed in another person's mind, which is firmly outside your control. The crucial and often overlooked part of his teaching is that the very same principle applies to praise. If someone calls you a genius or a saint, you should apply the same detached reasoning. That, too, is just an opinion, a flattering sound in the air. To become attached to praise is just as dangerous as becoming wounded by criticism, because both tie your inner state to an external event. Your job is not to manage the opinions of others, but to manage your own assent to those opinions. When you stop believing the labels people give you, both good and bad, you reclaim the only thing that has ever truly belonged to you, your own self-assessment. This balanced approach transforms how you move through the world, both professionally and personally. Imagine you've just completed a major presentation at work. Afterwards, a senior leader approaches you, beaming, and says, "That was absolutely brilliant, one of the best I've ever seen." The untrained ego, hungry for validation, might latch onto this praise with both hands. It might puff up with pride, start to believe its own press, and subtly begin to shape future behavior to elicit more of that same adulation. This creates a dependency. You start to need that external confirmation to feel good about your work, making you vulnerable to the inevitable day when the praise doesn't come. The Stoic practitioner, while gracious and polite, receives the compliment with inner detachment. Internally, they might acknowledge it this way: "That is their kind and generous opinion. I know that I prepared thoroughly and spoke with conviction. The value of my work lies in that preparation and my honest effort, not in this specific moment of praise." You can smile, say a genuine thank you, "I appreciate you saying that," and then mentally let it go, refusing to let it become part of your identity. You appreciate the warmth of the sun, but do not build your house out of it. Now flip the scenario. Imagine the very next person you speak to offers a cutting criticism of the same presentation. I thought the core argument was weak and the data was unconvincing, they say. The untrained ego, now riding high from the previous praise, can crash spectacularly. It might react with defensiveness, anger, or a crushing sense of inadequacy. The Stoic, however, meets this criticism with the very same calm detachment they applied to the praise. They take a mental step back and see the criticism for what it is, another piece of data, another opinion from the external world. They don't have to automatically agree with it, but they don't have to fight it either. They can examine it calmly, like a scientist looking at a specimen. Is there any useful truth here I can learn from? If so, I can extract it and use it to improve. If not, I can simply note it as a differing perspective and let it pass by without allowing it to alter my own reasoned self-assessment. Your response can be just as measured as it was to the praise. Thank you for the feedback. I'll give that some serious thought. In both cases, you remain the calm, unshakable center. You are not a balloon inflated by flattery and popped by a pinprick of critique. You are the anchor, holding fast in both storm and calm, your confidence rooted in the deep seabed of your own virtuous actions. To truly internalize this final, liberating habit, let's engage in a brief but powerful mental exercise. Cast your mind back to the last significant piece of praise or criticism you received. It might have been a compliment on a meal you cooked, a critical comment on a project, or feedback from a friend. Now, in your mind's eye, I want you to practice the act of handing it back. Visualize the words themselves, whether they were kind or harsh, as an object, a beautifully wrapped gift or a jagged piece of stone. See yourself holding this object in your hands. You have received it, you have acknowledged it, but now, consciously and deliberately, visualize yourself gently handing it back to the person who gave it to you. You are not rejecting it angrily, you are simply returning it to its rightful owner. You are saying silently, this is your opinion, it belongs to you. I thank you for sharing it, but I do not need to carry it with me. My worth was never inside this package. Feel the psychological weight leave your hands. The compliment no longer has the power to make you arrogant. The criticism no longer has the power to make you feel small. Both are returned to the external world from whence they came, and you are left standing lighter and freer in the quiet certainty of your own self-defined character. This is the pinnacle of Stoic confidence, a profound independence that allows you to engage fully with the world without ever being owned by it. And so we arrive at the end of our journey through these 23 unexpected habits, returning full circle to the fundamental truth we started with. That true, unshakable confidence is not something you find out in the world, but something you build within yourself, brick by daily brick. It is an internal fortress constructed not from luck or accolades, but from the consistent, often counterintuitive, practices of a disciplined mind. This isn't about becoming emotionless or detached from the rich tapestry of human experience. The Stoic aim is far more profound and far more humane. It is about achieving mastery over your judgments and your responses, so that you can experience life more fully, with greater clarity and less unnecessary suffering. You learn to feel the sting of an insult without letting it poison your entire day, and to enjoy the warmth of praise without becoming addicted to it. This is the confidence of the deep-rooted tree, which sways in the storm but does not break because its strength comes from within. All 23 of these habits, from the premeditation of adversity to the equanimous acceptance of both praise and blame, are threads woven from 3 central Stoic pillars. First, the unwavering commitment to virtue, to acting with wisdom, courage, justice, and self-control, regardless of the situation. This is the foundation stone of your inner citadel. Second, the clear-eyed wisdom of the dichotomy of control, which teaches you to channel all your energy into the one arena where you are truly sovereign, your own choices, your efforts, and your judgments. And third, the profound peace that comes from acceptance, not a passive resignation, but an active embrace of reality as it is, loving your fate and finding the opportunity in every single obstacle that life places in your path. When you build your life upon this triad, your confidence ceases to be a fluctuating state and becomes a stable trait. The Roman philosopher Seneca, in his quest for a meaningful life, arrived at a conclusion that perfectly captures the spirit of this transformation. He wrote, "The happy life is to have a mind that is free, lofty, fearless, and steadfast, a mind that is placed beyond the reach of fear, beyond the reach of desire, that counts virtue the only good, baseness the only evil." This is the ultimate reward for the work we have explored. A happy life is not one of constant pleasure and absent hardship, but one of a mind that is unassailable. It is a mind that is free from the tyranny of wanting what it does not have, and fearless in the face of what it might lose. This steadfastness, this lofty perspective, is the very essence of the confidence we have been seeking. It is a happiness that depends on nothing but your own character, and is therefore a happiness that cannot be taken from you. But understanding these ideas is only the very beginning. Wisdom that is not acted upon is merely decoration. The real transformation, the genuine rebuilding of your confidence, happens not in the watching, but in the doing. It occurs in the moment you choose to take a cold shower, in the quiet minutes you spend reviewing your day with honest eyes, in the deep breath you take before responding to a provocation. This is why the most important step you can take right now is to move from passive learning to active practice. Do not be overwhelmed by the list of 23. That is not its purpose. Its purpose is to offer you a rich menu of options. Your invitation is to step forward and choose just one habit to focus on for the coming week. Perhaps it is the practice of negative visualization to deepen your gratitude for the people you love. Maybe it is the discipline of assent, pausing before you react in anger. Or it could be as simple as speaking with purpose and brevity in your next meeting. Pick the one that resonates most deeply with the specific challenges you are facing right now. This is not a journey you need to take alone. We are all students learning to navigate the complexities of our own minds, so I extend a warm and genuine invitation to you. In the comments below, share which one habit you are committing to practice this week. Tell us why you chose it. By sharing our intentions, we create a community of practice, a fellowship of mutual support and encouragement where we can learn from each other's experiences and celebrate each other's growth. Your journey toward an unshakable, internally built confidence starts with a single, deliberate action. Choose your